Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, one and all. We've got a big, hefty show for you all today. We're going to be talking Disney's regime change. We're going to be talking like the nitty gritty behind that. We've got Star Wars. We've got Avatar 2's insane budget. We've got Marvel hating the fan base. I want to talk a little bit about Terrifier 2 because it exemplifies what I said on the last. I mean, it's full on. We've also got DC's own CEO James Gunn slapping the face of Grace Randolph once again, who was calling Henry Cavill a liar. Love it. I'm here for it. So I hope you're all going to enjoy this live show. It is my pleasure to be here, accompanied by my panel guests. We've got Paulie of the Latino Slant.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I've been unplugged, but I am ready to go. I'm ready, Nate. I'm ready.
Oh dear. So we also have Tom Connors. How you doing, good sir? If he is even here. His mic's muted. I see that.
I am here. How's everybody doing?
We're doing good.
You got your voice.
I got the coof.
I got your voice back at the very least, I see.
At least, yeah. I'm getting over it. Hopefully I'm on the other side of it now, yeah.
Good. Nice. Excellent stuff. I'm glad you joined because this is... We've got a full-on show and I want your opinion on some of these things today because, Jesus, boy howdy, is it, interesting. It's an interesting time in Hollywood. So before we do get started, ladies and gents, please do hit that thumbs up button. As you roll in, hit that thumbs up. If it's not, was it blue or black? Whatever the color is. Blue's on Twitter, isn't it? But whatever, hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to check out anyone's channel, because we've got some rolling panel guests that will be coming in and out of this stream. A load of invites have gone out and people are just a little bit delayed. Check out the links to everyone in the description box. If you want to help and support, keep the lights on, or like I did last stream, I super chat basically helps keep the lights on, but it also goes towards good causes because I donated a whole bunch of super chat funds to the animal shelter you, Paulie, were doing a fundraiser for. So
yeah,
goes to good causes as well as keeping the lights on.
Yeah, let me, before we start, let me say a couple things if I can. One, I want to give a shout out to my mother, Mama Slant. She's recovering. She's listening.
Wholesome.
Everyone send her healing vibes and hellos. We love you. Two, this man here, and Nick all donated to the Southern California Animal Rescue Squad. I thank you so much, Nate. We thank you so much. And that taking care of dogs, taking care of animals is expensive.
Very, very expensive.
So we're really so appreciative of what you guys donated, and thanks again, mate. Thanks again. That was awesome.
My pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. If you can't do anything good, in the world, what's the point, I guess? So, especially when it comes to little animals.
She's in this. Yeah, my mom's right there. K-Popcorn. She's right there in the chat. Hey, yay!
Where? I don't see.
She's a big K-pop fan, so she's K-pop.
Okay. There we go. Yeah. You'll enjoy this show, I'm sure. We've got a very full-on one for you. And we've got our first super chat of the day. So again, this is a great way for you guys to join in the conversation whilst also supporting the show itself. For Paulie from Wolverine 26 says, I was reading an article recently about Wednesday, and instead of the dreaded Latin X,
yes,
I saw the word Latine.
Latine.
Are you familiar with this? Are you familiar with this word? Because to me, it sounds similar to Latinx. Do you want to explain what the hell is Latine? It's not a matinee, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
All right, okay. Terrible. All right, the wordplay is terrible. Soz. All right. I've had my coffee.
Wolverine 626, $10. Thank you so much. Keep those super chats coming, guys. I'm very familiar with the term, and it has actually been around a lot longer, a little more organic than Latinx. So that actually, and again, it's for those people that don't want to, jive with, a male or a female. You know, I the and
It's
it
pronouns.
does have some social and political connotation to it. I don't care for it. Doesn't resonate with me. Um, and I do know a couple things about the Wednesday iteration. They're supposed to be a Latino family. They, it's just going to sound, it's going to be very strange how they do it. But I'm hearing not so great things about the show already. That it's kind
Uh,
of boring.
Marketing material has been a bit lackluster for sure, and that's never
Well, the reviews are
particularly
out.
a great sign. Oh, are they? I didn't see.
Oh yeah,
Didn't see the
let me
reviews
get
at
you a
all.
link. Let me get you a
Oh
link. But
dear.
yeah,
Well,
so
I think
yeah.
that'll maybe we'll segue off into looking at some Wednesday Addams
Yeah,
reviews.
but
Tom, have you heard anything about Wednesday?
Just the basics. I've seen the trailer and everything. I mean, it looks semi-interesting, but I've got some issues with it. But I'll probably check it out. Is it out already, or
it comes out tonight.
does it
Is it
tonight?
tonight?
It drops Wednesday tonight on Wednesday. And the reviews are some of the reviews are already out, and I'm gonna put it in a private chat right here. Here's one, AV Club, and there were some other ones as well, but it's all kind of saying the same thing, that it's actually pretty boring.
Oh
So
dear.
I'm like, that sucks.
Wednesday is frighteningly dull. Even Jenna Ortega can't save Netflix's bafflingly boring Addams Family spin-off. Well, I recently saw Jenna Ortega looking fan in Ty West X. Have you seen that?
Yes. Yes.
Hot damn.
Yeah.
She's a fan. She's looking fine in that. Yeah, no, she looks great.
Great movie.
Yeah, it's really good movie, actually. I really enjoyed that. So frighteningly dull, even Jenna Ortega can't save Netflix's bafflingly boring Addams Family spin-off. It does seem like a weird focus, for Addams Family in general, doesn't it? Like, you got the Addams Family as a whole group, but that's when they're most interesting, because they're each an archetype. So they have to bounce off of one another for it to be an interesting, show, story, an interesting group. And so if you just have one,
kind of, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like having Judge Dredd without Judge Anderson, right? Without Judge Anderson, Judge Dredd is, limited. We see him grow over a period of time, but there's not that much for him to sort of bounce off of. He's not one note, but he's very, very limited. He's an archetype, kind of.
Well, I mean, I mean is, like, in Addams Family Values, they did have the part where the two kids go off to summer camp, right? So, I mean, I can see that kind of working as, like, this idea of an adult Wednesday doing whatever. But, like, at this point, the way they're doing it, I'm not so sure it was going to work, because they're turning it into more like a Scooby-Doo thing.
Scooby-Doo meets Hogwarts. Right?
Yeah. So, like,
that's great. Scooby-Doo.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, Mr. H. Like, the whole point of the Addams Family is they do what they want to do, they say what they want to say, and they live how they want to live, to quote the MC Hammer song. They do whatever they want. That's the whole point, is they get off on watching other people squirm around them, right? They're completely aware of what they're doing. Yeah. And it's just the macabre humor of it. Like, the Script Doctor and I said that the funnier story would be if you actually had Christina Ricci and the rest of the remaining cast come back from the 90s films, and it'd be about Wednesday's pissed off because Pugsley got married to, like, a typical woman, and she's, like, converting him to normal. So, like, the whole gimmick of the show can be like she's trying to kill her.
Yeah.
Well, and it never works, right? Like, that's the joke, right? Because, like, that was kind of the whole dichotomy between those two, was, they were always, like, trying to kill each other. Well, that was the joke. So, like, I think you could carry on with that. And then you have the idea of the adults are a little older now. So play into, Angelica Houston being the grandma now, or something like that, of a situation, like, and whatnot, and other family members hanging around and stuff. Because they do have a big house and they do have a big family. So, but I mean, there's other ways you could have done this, I think, besides the Scooby-Doo route.
It's just
Well,
about they're
not
in a
only that
school as
is
well. Weird.
from this review, and I have not seen it yet, but what Tom said as far as what made it special is the whole family. They're taking the family out real quick, and it's just her, and it's just Hogwarts meet Scooby Doo, CW, and it's really
Leaves
boring. And
it here.
apparently she does no wrong. So they're pretty harsh on this review.
Yeah, I mean, they even said here, you know,
Um,
the entire family of the Adams. That's what makes it work, right? And look,
right.
I've just got to address this. Dude said Jenna is not fine. Plus, she's only 19 or 20. She's 20, all right, which is perfectly legal in the UK. So she's fine. All right, respect my
She's
culture.
gorgeous.
She looks great. You want to watch Ty West X? I'm not no Jenna Ortega disrespect up in here.
Yeah,
She's a
we
fine
love Jenna.
Latina.
Yeah, I think she's like Puerto Rican or something.
God damn.
But yeah, it sounds like
anyway.
there's a lot of mistakes happening in this show.
Yeah, I mean, Wednesday's
You know,
first mistake is many is separating the title character from a family almost immediately. So it's like, what, just wham, bam, gone, done straight away. Following a series of expulsions, Gomez and Morticia sent their daughter to study at their own alma mater. And nevermore, the boarding school is a cut-rate Hogwarts. Oof, that's brutal. Situated at the edge of a Stars Hollow-esque New England town, complete with a hangout coffee shop. In short order, the writers make the baffling choice to turn Wednesday into a teen detective investigating a string of mysterious murders. But that's not what she's about. She was the one that was laughing at people getting murdered. She was the one that would stand there and look at people and creep them the hell out so they wanted to kill themselves, right? She wasn't doing an investigation of murders. That wasn't the point of it, was it? I mean, it doesn't look like it's particularly well shot either, to be honest. It's very much sitcom-esque level.
Well, it's Burton, I think, does half
cinematography.
the he's directing half of them.
Oh, God. So they have their own versions of wizards and muggles, outcasts and normies. That's just like, oh dear.
Yeah.
The writers remind us over and over again that Nevermore, the school, is a haven for outcasts. God, this sounds bad, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Tells her that it's a school for outcasts, freaks, monsters. Fill in your favorite marginalized group here. I'm sure their classmates are vampires, werewolves, seers, and the like, but they're definitely not weirdos, let alone marginalized.
Everyone's marginalized. Don't you know that, Nate?
Well, then, at least if we're all marginalized, no one's marginalized, I guess. Nevermore is populated by rich, mostly white kids. It's not really relevant, is it? But never mind. Who are cliquish and put off by others as the students.
Otherness.
Otherness. Regular. Otherness. Sorry.
That's key language there.
See. The student high school, for example, one teen is weirded out by the fact that Wednesday's outfit is monochromatic. This sounds like absolute fecal matter, doesn't it? Doesn't sound like kids.
Well, yeah, and that's. But you know, we're in a age right now, coming out of Namor, going into this, going into National Treasure, where hey, we're represented. You better love it. It's like, no, I better not. I better be impressed. Then I'll, And it's like, oh my God. You know, the thing is that I find myself, because if you put yourself in your marketing, like, Latino this and Mayan that, I'm gonna double up on my criticisms, because you're selling yourself short in the story. So it's like, all right, well, it needs to not it has to exceed my expectations, and I have high expectations. I mean, Tom knows, right, Tom?
You are very bougie.
But yeah, this I was looking forward to it. I also hear that there's no chemistry between Luis Guzman and Catherine Zeta-Jones. I'm just like,
shame.
I felt both of them were miscast to begin with. Like, Yeah, Luis Guzman looks like the comic version of Gomez, but
yeah,
he doesn't have that personality. And don't get me wrong, I love Luis Guzman. I think he's hilarious, but he's not who I think of when I think of Gomez Adams. And Catherine Zeta-Jones, I just think she's a bitch. Like, I can't stand her as an actress. Like, she's just something about her. She's just one of those, and it's nothing personal, right? It's just, she's just one of those individuals that every time I see her in a movie, she just rubs me the wrong way. Like, I don't know what it is. So as far as that goes, I have zero love for either one of those two. And it's like, okay, if you're going to go this route, why not Christina Ricci playing Morticia or something like that? You know, and there was a lot of people who were thinking like Johnny Depp or something like that should play Gomez, or Javier Bardem. Like, yeah, you know, like exactly Soul Assassin. Raul Julia set that bar pretty damn high. Like,
I think Javier Bardem would be good, wouldn't he? I think.
Yeah, I mean, John Astin, of course, was the original, but I mean, as far as like when people think of Gomez, Raul Julia kind of owned that role. I mean, he was that, you know, that he just had that sparkle in his eye, like that, you know, evergreen kid. Yeah, and the charisma of it, and just, you know, you could tell he just adored, you know, Morticia, and he loved the kids and everything. And he was having a lot of fun. Yes.
Yeah. What a shame. I think as well, like, when I think of Morticia, I just don't think of Zeta-Jones. Like, that's not. I don't see that. Like, that's not. It seems so disconnected and so very weird. Her in that role, I just don't see it at all. It'll be interesting. I think I know you, Paulie, you're not here on Thursday. Tom, are you going to be here on Thursday stream? I know it's Thanksgiving. Or don't commit if you can't.
I was gonna say, like, I have a dinner commitment, but I might be back in time, but I might be late. I don't know.
I was just gonna say, if we could try and watch it, that was all. It'd be good to try and review it for Thursday.
I can try.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on just ever so briefly now. Al Humphreys dropped in with £5. Says, do we still mention channel membership milestones, or am I being a bit of a tart, Mr. H? You're not. It just, because I'm doing this all through StreamYard, so it actually doesn't come up annoyingly. Do we know what the milestone was? I know you've been a member for ages, man. I'm going to presume like 2 years easily. So can only say thank you so much. But it doesn't come up on StreamYard. It's one of those, annoying things that StreamYard is kind of limited by. Okay. So 22 months. Epic. Thank you so much, Al, my dude. And apologies.
StreamYard's got to do that. They got to fix that.
They are getting better. StreamYard is getting better.
Well, their last update didn't add anything worth a crap. And I think they undid some of it.
True. Yeah, you can have people wait in the wings and stuff. Oh, whatever. It's all a bit by the by, isn't it? So, I think we should shuffle on to our favorite topic. Tom, I know you love this topic. All right, you're containing yourself. It's probably not what you think. We're going to talk about Avatar 2 and its insane budget. Because so I did a report. So basically, bottom line is, and Paulie, if you didn't know, here's the brief, quick bit of information about this. Avatar 2 needs to make $2 billion to break even. Now, a lot of people are going, well, it's a misquote. It's speaking out of turn. They've taken it out of context. And I'm going to stop everyone there and I go, definitely they could have done that. However, I think there's a few things that are really important to note here. Is initially it was quoted as, there was the thought process, unconfirmed. I can't remember if it's actually been confirmed anywhere, and I can't find it as being confirmed anywhere. $250 million. Now, James Cameron was asked straight up how much it was, and he said, and I quote, very fucking expensive. And then he went on to say that it would have to become the 4th or 5th highest grossing film in history to break even. Now, that puts it in the $2 billion range to break even. So it's not $250 million isn't its budget, or it is its budget. It is its budget, or there's a few things to factor in here, because I don't run with the whole it's taken out of context. I'm going to take it on face value. I think it does have to hit that range to break even. The deals to make these films are old. The financiers on these films will be gaining interest back on their loan, right? That's something which was put on hold during COVID for a lot of films, right? This isn't one of them. This predates COVID, as far as I'm aware. So the finance deals for all of this could be raking back in its interest, which means, yeah, it would have to exceed the initial production budget. COVID could have added a significant amount of change. 25% was the initial reported amount that most production budgets would have to go up by for COVID rules and regulations. 25%, it's not a small amount when you're dealing with $250 million. And then the other thing is, James Cameron's notoriously not very good at actually keeping a budget. And the budgets can spiral out of control. And that might be what's happened here. So initially, what was said to be $250 million has now just blown out of control. But that's a notorious thing that he has done and has had problems with in the past. That's recorded. We know that. It's not conjecture or speculation. Tom, you sounded like you were going to jump in there. What do you think then?
Honestly, it tells me that this budget is a lot more than they're saying. I mean, yeah, I know they shot 2 movies together, but that still doesn't mean, like, the other movie is still its own individual entity, right? Like, so in this case, if Avatar 2 all by itself has to gross around $2 billion
just to break even,
then that means the budget's probably northwards of $500 million. And like you said, Nate, there's a bunch of people who get a big chunk of this on the back end for them to say, yeah, we have to make this much. This is what we try to tell people. Like, this is why, you know, this $250 million movie thing can't last, because these movies have to make all the money. There's no break even point unless you're the biggest movie of all time. And I'm sorry, not everything is going to be able to pull that off. It's a rare occurrence. Even Top Gun failed to pull that off with as astronomical as it is doing. I mean, with inflation, it probably beat The Force Awakens, but regardless, you had a movie that took forever for Top Gun to do that. There's no way Avatar 2 is doing that. Not a chance in hell. Because it just doesn't have most of the people that I have talked to, like, you can do a poll in your chat right now, and I guarantee you at least 75% of your audience probably isn't planning on going to see this. And I specifically asked those of you who went to see the first film one day, are you planning on seeing the second film in theaters? And I said, only answer if you saw the first film in theaters. And 80% of my audience said no. To me, that's a good gauge of how this is probably going to go. And James Cameron's tone has been changing a little bit here in the last month, which tells me that somebody gave him a splash of cold water in the face, speaking of water, going, hey, bud, guess what? This is probably not going to make the amount of money that the first one did. In fact, we'll be lucky to make half of that. And as things are going right now, they've already kind of pre-warned him. You're probably going to have to shoot a new ending to part 3 because they left it open for part 4. So, yeah.
4 and 5, actually. It's really important. It's really important to note, Ibrahim Khan said it's getting a Chinese release. It doesn't actually have a Chinese release date yet at all. They screened footage to the Chinese film group, you know, the board. It's not been approved. There's no Chinese release date yet. And it means that it might not get approval either. So that's not a done deal yet, actually. It's not a done deal at all.
That's just it. China's been very, very limited on the American movies they've allowed.
Yeah, they've really clamped down. The last 2 years, done. They seem to be like excommunicado of Hollywood, which, sure, fine, whatever. I'm happy that Hollywood isn't chasing China anymore, because it led to a watered down of product and really bizarre racist marketing as well, actually, for, you know, removal of black characters and things like this, just completely unwarranted and gross. But yeah, I mean, so this is the actual quote, which is, so how expensive is Avatar: The Way of Water? Early reports have claimed the production budget alone was in the $250 million range, much more than that. But director James Cameron isn't willing to give a hard number just yet. The only answer Cameron would give about the sequel's budget when asked by GQ magazine was the following, and this is just for that film, Remember, because loads of people are like, it's taken out of context. He's talking about loads, but talking about them both. No, very effing expensive. Cameron apparently told Disney 20th Century Studio executives his sequel budget was so high, it represented the worst business case in movie history, according to the director's estimates. You have to be the third or fourth highest grossing film in history. That's your threshold. That's your break even. And this is all to do with just the one sequel. He's not talking about, there's no, we're kind of reading it verbatim here. He's not talking about anything else. And so when we look at that, Endgame, second place, 2.7 billion. Titanic, 2.1 billion. Star Wars, Force Awakens, and Avengers Infinity War are 2.07 and 2.05 respectively. So it has to be above that. Like it's in the 2 billion range anyway. $2 billion to break even. $2 billion to break even with an economy, world economy, that's absolutely on its knees, falling apart. Now, I get it. Loads of people will still go to the cinema. Like, I'm one of those people that thinks
and it doesn't have a ton of competition, but yeah.
No, I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't really have any competition aside from is that Violent Night coming out as well? There's that.
Yeah, because everything else moved out of its way.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there any more? There might be some small, sort of fun, friendly animated movies that are being released.
Strange World comes out this week. That's Disney's.
Well, that's completely movie. That's going to bomb anyway.
And then there's been no and then there's. I think there's only one other movie that's coming out up against this, but I think it's like
Matilda. Matilda's being released. Never underestimate a musical. Musicals absolutely kill it. They kill.
Well, we got to remember how Jumanji played a lot better than people expected it to against Star Wars, and that's where I really thought Warner was stupid to move Aquaman. Regardless of what they had to do with it. At that point, I'm like, fuck it. They might as well have tried to give it a run for its money with that,
Yeah.
But at this point, everything got out of its way. And the thing is I think it'll be lucky to match Avatar's domestic through the worldwide. What I mean is it'll be lucky to make 800 million worldwide, which is not going to be good for these guys, which means this is going to be a complete disaster. And the old adage is don't bet against James Cameron, but I think they just put the farm on it, and that's too much at this point.
But we said this before, Tom, is that
roll red. Yeah, sorry.
We said this before, Tom, is that the only thing that could possibly save this is the release date. It's such a great release date. Yeah. The timing of it, everything. There's no competition. There's literally no competition.
3.5 hours long.
That's 3.5 hours. You can have kids sit in the seats.
Long.
Love it. That's how families
do you think kids will like that?
Kids don't really care for long movies usually. Well, it depends on the age.
A bunch of kids were at the
and not only that, if people go see this in 3D for 3 hours, that's a headache-inducing mess.
But bro, you can argue either way. I'm just saying that this is the one thing that'll save it is its timing and release date and the fact that there's no competition. I'm
looking at the competition, right? So Violent Night will be released, right? So you got to remember that Avatar 2: The Way of Water is it's a family film, but it does have to capture the adults to want to take their children to go and see that over another children's film, because there are other children's films being released. So there's adult and children's films. So you got Violent Night. It's an R-rated film. Obviously, kids aren't going to go see that, right? We get that. No. You've got,
or at least parents won't take their kids to see that.
Yeah, well,
I hope not.
Well, they should. Why not? Man up a little bit. No, don't take your kids to see that. Brutal. I'm just scrolling through. So you are right. Like, there's not a lot, but I think there's The Whale, so that gets a limited release.
No.
I
mean, yes, it's being released, but it's not.
It's an adult one, though. It's an adult one.
There's no competition. That is not competition for Avatar.
You are right, but then there's competition on other things. So
okay, tell me.
you've got Del Toro's Pinocchio on Netflix. Because you've got to remember, inflation's high, budgets are tight, right?
Isn't that out now?
I don't know, I'm looking at it on here, or maybe I'm. I don't know. It says December, but you're probably. I don't know. Maybe you're right.
And then last night, as I said it was going to happen, they dropped Black Adam on Vudu, so that's out, or digital. So that's out.
Oh, really?
Now. Yep.
Yeah, I got the Pinocchio's playing now.
You are probably right then. This bloody website shit.
In at least here in LA, it's playing all over town. It's in theaters. It's in theaters now. It's on Netflix December 9th. So it's taking itself out.
Who knows? Well, basically, Matilda will probably be the biggest competition. And then the range of adult movies. Not adult movies. Not like that. But
the musical
films for adults. You are right. Like, I don't think that there's a massive amount of competition, but I think that there's still some competition. Competition.
Matilda's out now.
There'll probably be some re-releases as well, I'm sure, because you know, they usually do that. Like a lot of the Christmas Vacation and Christmas Story and stuff like that. Like, I'm surprised Warner didn't release Christmas Story Christmas in theaters.
Well,
I saw that last week, but
where's Puss in
Boots in the UK.
Last Wish? Where's that being released?
I think that's supposed to come out in December. Actually, now that you mentioned it,
it is. Is that a theater release? Because if it is, that's a kids' film.
I think so. That's the Antonio Banderas movie.
Puss in Boots.
Yeah, I saw an advert for that recently.
Yeah, it didn't look too bad, actually.
No, the animation
release date
a bit
December 21st.
weird,
I wonder if it's an older movie and they just finally are releasing it. Because weren't they supposed to be doing a sequel to that years ago and it just never came out? Maybe that's what this is. You know what I'm wondering? Like, maybe.
And then you've got other things. You've got I Want to Dance with Somebody. So there's that.
It's out wide release December 21st.
Puss in Boots is?
Even though in town, here in LA, it's out.
Oh my God, so bizarre.
So weird.
You know what? I think there's enough, which, given the fact that
is a Shrek spinoff too, so.
Well, they were very popular. The Puss in Boots films were pretty damn popular.
No, out of all those, Puss in Boots is definitely.
I mean, look, the first Puss in Boots, right? The first
did pretty well, yeah.
$555 million.
No, and like
that's
Tom
a lot.
said, it's part of the Shrek family.
Yeah, and I think that one came out right in between Shrek 3 and 4. So
came out 9th of December 2011. They've been going for a long time.
Or maybe it was after Shrek 4.
So
I don't even remember what the last Shrek movie was anymore.
I think, look, ultimately these budgets are too high. We've been over this already.
Yeah.
Avatar 2, it's not a done deal. I think everyone's saying it is a done deal. I think it's just, don't rest on your laurels with stuff like this. You know, like there is competition and there could be some surprise hits there. And I went over and I looked at the marketing material. How's it going, Nick? I looked at the marketing material for Avatar 1 versus the last trailer that just came out yesterday, and they're night and day difference. Like I know the story in Avatar 1. It's told to me in the trailer. Like I get a sense of what's going to happen. Avatar 2 is sold solely on family and spectacle. So it'll be interesting to see how that sells the film to the wider audience. But I mean, Nick, obviously, I just brought you in here. Any thoughts on Avatar needing $2 billion to break even?
Good luck. Good
James
luck,
Cameron himself.
I don't see it happening. I really don't. I have zero interest in this movie. I'm not gonna go see it. I didn't really like the first one. I didn't go see the first one in theaters. I didn't see it till it came out on 3D Blu-ray. I thought the 3D for the movie was really well done. I thought it was excellent, actually. I really enjoyed that aspect of it, but the movie itself, I just wasn't a fan. And I cared nothing about the second one or the third one. and I'm just not hearing a whole lot of buzz around this thing. Like, I'm not hearing a lot of people, you know, on social media or even outside of social media, just in my personal life, of people like, oh my God, do you guys see that new Avatar's coming out, you know, and people like, you know, going nuts about it. Like, I don't hear anybody saying anything about it. I just don't see the interest in the movie. So yeah, good luck to them on hitting that 2 billion mark.
You don't think they will then?
I would almost bet my entire year's salary on it that it doesn't hit it.
Wow. Bold. I like it. I like it. Bold claims. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much already kind of said my piece on it at this point. Like, I don't think it's gonna hit higher than 800 worldwide. This is gonna be a huge kick to the nuts for Disney.
800 million worldwide. That's your prediction.
It might do 1 billion, but I don't see it doing nearly that well. I'm looking at it at the level of like, and that's on the high end now for Marvel, right? Like, unless it's a Spider-Man or something like that, lately people just haven't gotten used to this idea of going back to theaters as far as the large swath of people. And when you have situations where 9 times out of 10 these movies come out on streaming a lot quicker than they used to, some people are just willing to wait. So at that point, Hollywood needs to readjust them. Like, they know they can't not use the theaters. They need the theaters to make that first big chunk. But I think, like I was saying, like I had heard that, you know, Black Adam was coming out on streaming today, and it did. And the reason is they got it for sale and for rental for $19.99 for rental and $24.99 for sale. And
is that why you think Top Gun was such a hit? Because they waited for so long?
Yeah, well, that just kept playing, right? Like that was a
just
movie.
A good film.
That's a phenomenon, right? That's one of those rare,
great legs.
It's comparable to the first Avatar, for instance. It just kept playing and playing and playing and playing, and it's a movie that people kept going. See, that's the key. That is the big key that Marvel's missing now.
They really missed it.
That I think Avatar 2 is not going to have, and that is that rewatchability factor. And people won't go back to see it, I don't think, even if they do go see it the first time.
I would happily go and watch Top Gun Maverick again. Like, it's one of those films that had something for everyone, you know? And I said, because I remember some friends messaging me going, look, you know, should I go watch it? Should I take my wife to go watch this? She's not particularly bothered about the first one. I was like, she doesn't need to watch the first one. Don't worry about it. Like, it's all covered.
No, it's a much better movie than the first one. Yeah,
exactly. I was like, what you need to know is covered in the film from the first film. Just go and watch it. Like, you will have an absolute blast with this film. And that was the beauty of Top Gun Maverick, was that it has rewatch value because, one, it's not bloody lecturing you and it's focusing on entertainment. Any messages in there are just about good, normal, moral functioning, as opposed to, you know, like an agenda-driven message of
it's a simple story
elements.
Too.
It's very simplistic, and it just works, and it's entertaining. Brilliant film. But I don't think
it again last night.
Exactly, there you go, right?
Well, and Black Adam is kind of the same way. I'm sitting here watching this, and I mean, again, Andre had pointed out there's probably a much more woke version of this movie that's on the cutting room floor, and I agree. Because watching the film, like I had a lot of fun with it. The parts where it drug on and on were when they had to add in all these other characters. I'm like, fuck, this could have been just an interesting film without all that. You could have just left it with about Black Adam and this other guy and maybe Dr. Fate. You didn't need all Hawkman and Atom Smasher and all these other. That would have cut, what, $60 million out of your budget right there.
Yeah,
like, easily. So, like, again, and why that worked? It's just the simplicity of it. It's that story is almost the same damn story as Samaritan. If you've seen the Sylvester Stallone movie, I loved that movie.
I just watched it. I just watched it recently. It was good. I liked it.
Good film.
Yeah, it was good. It had I'm not to spoil anything for people in chat who haven't seen it, but it had a very interesting twist at the end of that. I did not see that coming.
I did, but even still, yeah.
It's still satisfying. I mean, I saw it coming, but it was still very satisfying.
It was fun. It was
a lot of fun. And that's what movies have been missing, right? And that's what Top Gun was. That's what Spider-Man No Way Home
is
was.
All about. Tom Cruise is all about. Films. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Like Spider-Man No Way Home didn't preach anything. It was just about fun. right? I mean,
Yes.
sure, it had
Yeah.
dramatic elements
Member
to it, but
berries.
we all knew that we were going to go see 3 Spider-Men fighting classic villains. That's what everybody wanted.
Well, and the marketing was focused on that fun element as well. You know, you're not Peter. Like it's that sort of, like it's playing on the fun element more so than, you're a colonizer. Oh, shut up. Like, God damn
No,
it,
because the
shut
death
up.
of Aunt May came out of nowhere for me. I'm like, oh shit. I didn't
Yeah,
expect
they
that. I'm like, but it was
managed to keep that secret, didn't they? Jesus.
yeah, but it worked within. And you know what? I'm like, you know what? Even though they substituted her for the great power comes with great, she earned that throughout these 3 films. So that was the difference between like, okay, so you didn't give us the same old thing, and I give them props on that, even though I didn't care as much for the second film, and I know a lot of people weren't fan of Spider-Boy. I mean, not to go off on a tangent, but that's the thing Avatar needs, right? Nobody talks about Avatar. So here we are already going off on other movies because
I know.
Tell me 3 things about Avatar. Tell me 3 things about Avatar besides telling me they're blue, it was 3D, and it was directed by James Cameron, right? Like most people probably couldn't tell you 2 characters, let alone 3 things about it because
I couldn't tell you anything about the story. I completely forgot.
They had a dragon.
No, sort of. I guess.
I thought it was like a giant dragonfly.
They had
the dumb name.
They had snorkels. They had snorkel masks.
No. Yes, maybe. I don't know.
And something else, the Spider-Man No Way Home had a budget of like 200 million, you know, roughly around, and you know it made almost 2 billion at the box office. There was tons of buzz around that, you know. With this film, with its massive budget and having zero to very little buzz around it, like man.
Well, James Cameron has his own self to blame, right? Yeah. Nothing has kept this franchise in the public eye in the last 15 plus years.
Yeah, it hasn't been relevant at all.
He hasn't done any video games, no TV series, no
they got
books
the
even.
Thing, that's it.
That's it. Just a park. And how many movies based on theme park rides have been successful? One movie.
Yeah.
That's it. And they're trying again with the Haunted Mansion, and I don't think it's going to work out any better this time than it did with Eddie Murphy. But yeah. And I mean, I know that's not the same thing. They're not the same caliber. But again, it goes to my point, though. You don't have, when you go to these Comic-Con conventions and all this other stuff, you don't have a bunch of people still dressing like the Na'vi. Right? Like you probably didn't even remember that was the name of the fucking people until I just said it now, right? So like that's the thing. You gotta sit there and think about it for a long time. When Terminator 2 came out, it was a totally different world then. Right?
Did you say nachos?
No, but I would like some. Because I mean, when Terminator it was like what, 6-7 years since the first one. Yeah. People forget that the first movie wasn't a huge hit in theaters. It became a bigger hit on video.
It became a cult. Correct.
And subsequently on cable, so that by the time, you know, people started asking him about a sequel, there was a buildup for it. And Terminator had toys and other things that were kind of still around, you know, to lead into Terminator 2 to kind of build up to that. And that's what helped Terminator 2 at that time. And Titanic was his only other huge gamble. And at that time, he switched gears pretty fucking quick on that movie because when they first advertised it, he was advertising it like a typical James Cameron movie. Then when he got pushed off by, what was it, half a year, because it got delayed over and over again. Then when they came back with the new campaign was that it's a love story. And that sold it. Between that and that fucking song. Never underestimate a video playing on MTV every hour on the hour advertising your movie. Trust me, it helps. Ask Batman Forever.
Yeah. The funny thing is James Cameron was asked about another Terminator film and what would be the best timeline or best story to tell moving forward. And he was talking about like a prequel, like with the war, you know, the way that you saw it in the first 2 movies. And to this day, they have not done that. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's what everybody wants, you know?
Everyone wants the future war.
That's why Salvation was like the closest to a decent sequel, probably. But it still has so many problems.
Yeah, and it was it was way too modern, you know, it wasn't anything like what we saw in
light.
flashbacks of the first
Where's the nuclear fallout blocking the sun?
Yeah,
I want it to be
exactly.
Yeah,
dark.
exactly. But here's the
Goodness
thing. Well,
me.
you know, us guys, we know who James Cameron is, right? And here's something that stuck
Yeah.
out to me one time. Now, I can't remember if it was in our Facebook group or on a comment on one of our videos. I wish I had saved it, though, because I want to give credit to who said it. But it was a younger person, obviously. He's like, I don't get this boner for James Cameron. My generation has not grown up with him. You got to stop and remember, this guy has not directed a movie since Avatar. He ain't done shit. So to this generation, he's just that guy who directed Avatar. Like, that's really all he is.
Man. He did Alita. Why are you hating
He
on
produced
Cameron,
it. He produced it. That doesn't mean shit.
You're such a camera hater.
I don't hate Cameron. I actually love Cameron. I feel like he's wasted his opportunities in the last 10, 15 years. He could have given us so much more. He took control of the Terminator franchise, allowed it to go right back to where it was.
Solo.
It's just, I don't know. He could have done so much more with what he had. And it's James Cameron. He could do anything he wanted.
The thing he can't do is control time. And I think time outdated him in Avatar real fast.
I think so.
Got to get these movies out.
Well, this is the thing as well. Like, so I watched those trailers back to back, and I did a video on it today. It took me ages. One's copyright claimed, the other isn't. But one trailer, the old trailer, is copyright claimed. The new one isn't. It's weird how they do that, but whatever. So I watched those trailers back to back, and I just thought, like, absolutely unequivocally, they've improved the technology. Like, you can definitely see it when you watch them back to back. But they've also changed the color palette as well, like a lot, significantly more. It's a much brighter, more vibrant color palette that they're using in Avatar 2. Like, it is significantly different. But you know what? I'm looking at it. I'm like, is this 13 years worth of improvement? Not really. It doesn't. Like, it looks good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm like, is it 13 years worth of improvement? And I think to myself, I'm like, in an effort to obviously bring you guys, bring everyone, the world, something cutting edge, so great, top of the line technology. Did he wait too long for technology to catch up to what he wanted to do, that he sacrificed that window of opportunity where people would allow, a drop in quality because they're getting something that they want to watch quicker versus, the best quality you can get for the time now. But then that sort of hype has obviously died down, because I'd imagine if this had come out, 3 years after the original, 10 years ago, for instance, I think I would have done better. But it's 13 years. I don't think it's 13 years worth of technological improvement. I mean, it is, but it also isn't, because it doesn't look it. And so I think he's waited too long. And I think if he'd sacrifice a bit of that quality to strike the iron whilst it's hot. I mean, what do you guys think of that?
I'll push back a little bit on that, and I'll say I don't think he's getting any better quality out of this than he would have had he done another movie 3 to 5 years after the first one. Really. I don't see anything in this movie that I didn't see in Aquaman, that I didn't see in Infinity War or any of the earlier Marvel films. Like, nothing here and that's the thing, is he waited, and his big thing when he first announced it was going to be high frame rate 3D. It's like, that didn't work before.
That did not work with The Hobbit, man.
Really hurts your eyes.
Yeah.
So
sick.
Clearly he had no gimmick this time, because 40X theaters had probably beat him to the one gimmick he had left. And at that point, it's like, why don't you just make it like this 40X exclusive thing for a couple of years? That'll actually pump some money and, energy into it, because people will think, oh, the only way I can go see it is in one of these theaters, and that's it. Then you actually have, or an IMAX experience kind of thing. And then 2 years, 3 years down the road, finally release it. Yeah. And then when the sequel comes out, then release it on video. Don't release it right away. Make it feel special, because otherwise there's nothing selling this movie, really.
Well, so the old trailer really went with the war element, right? And you got a sense of Jake Sully, this character that was torn, conflicted between being a human and fighting for what's right. And then it came up big bold letters, James Cameron, the director of Terminator 2, Aliens, and you're like, wow, yeah, I'm getting this sense of, do you know what I mean? They actually, and this is the interesting thing, they sold it on James Cameron and his previous films. They're not really doing that on this one. They're not really doing that on this one at all. You don't get a sense of what's going to happen. You don't get a sense of the stakes. It's all very much the same. And
I think they're trying to sell the spectacle, but everybody's already seen this.
Yeah.
Well, so that's what they're doing. They are selling this on 3D again, just like the first one. So they are pushing for 3D again, which I wonder if that's what they're banking on. You know, they're banking on 3D coming back again, which I think I personally think 3D is done. Like it's a terrible gimmick when it was there anyway before. It makes me feel sick. I know loads of people like it, whatever. I'm talking about the people that don't. So
yeah, they're not even putting it in modern TVs anymore these days.
No, I'm an advocate for it, and I have 2 TVs I have to hang on to because they don't put it in TVs anymore. Because I've got over 100 some Blu-rays that are 3D, and that's part of the problem too. Is that every movie that came out got a 3D conversion. At that point, when everything has something, nothing is special. That's the problem you have, because what are you going to do when you got that many movies that are already 3D? The fact that this is 3D doesn't make it any more special than the last 3D movie. You know, that's basically it now. That's the problem you have.
Yeah. I think...
I was just going to say, I remember when George Lucas was going to do the 3D releases for all the Star Wars movies, but he started with episode 1 like an idiot.
And he made the mistake of converting them already, all of them. So they exist, and only people have seen episode 2 at one of the Star Wars conventions, and that was it.
Oh,
Disney was going to release them all, but they changed their minds, so...
I can't piss anyone else off, I guess. So look, I don't think... you know, this is interesting. The fact that it's got to hit 2 billion to break even is just madness. It's absolute insanity. And I can believe it. And I don't think it's just a case of mistaken quote, context, etc. What people are saying it to be. I genuinely think that is right. I think that is what he thinks it needs to do to break even. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think interest on loans, because these are loans, ladies and gents. You need to remember, like, people invest in these things. Sometimes they're an investment and they're a tax-free investment because they're high risk. Sometimes it's a loan, an investment as a loan, and there's interest on those loans. And then not only that, I think the budget might have just blown out of proportion, basically.
Sounds like
it's absolute madness. Yeah. So we're going to get to some super chats now, ladies and gents. Do apologize for that. Bit of a long segment there. So we got
we did talk longer than I planned.
And we got Mr. Think for £1.79 says Terrorizer 2 will make more profit than Avatar 2. So you talk about Terrifier, I think. Terrifier was great. Have you seen Terrifier, Tom?
No, but I'm aware of it. I want to see the trio. I want to see the original film and all that business. But
strong recommendation. Terrifier 2 will make you look away from the screen at certain points because it is just that fucked up. I've not seen a film that fucked up since watching Martyrs. Both different, but similarly fucked up. It's gross.
I will have to check them all out.
Yeah. Art the Clown has solidified himself in movie history as a slasher horror icon. I stand by that. I definitely think so. And I'm sure there'll be people agreeing with me here as well. Art the Clown, brilliant and really interesting to see what happens. Oh, it's difficult because obviously I'm just selling it to you right here because no one else has seen it. But the charisma of that performance and the simplicity of it, he's both funny, eerie, unnerving, scary. You have to watch it. You won't be disappointed at all.
Oh, I'm going to have to send this to my sister. She's scared to death of clowns.
I am not going to see that movie.
Come on now, everyone.
Excuse my language.
Grow a spine.
No.
No. I want to be spineless.
He's into elevated horror.
Ah, yes. Bougie horror. Yeah.
Bougie stuff.
I like elevators.
We got £10 from Gary. He says, I was just thinking, I've never seen anyone cosplay as Johnny Depp from Once Upon a Time in Mexico. He looked badass in black clothes, black gloves, sunglasses, and blood coming out of his eyes. Yeah, that's true.
Cool.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
But there's a lot, isn't there? There's a lot of things that people don't tend to cosplay as that people can. But I mean, maybe it's that sort of iconic nature. Maybe, I guess.
I really like that movie. And
Good
Desperado. Good stuff.
Very good films. We got Al Humphreys sent a £5 super sticker. Thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who is choosing to support the live shows with their super chats, super stickers, all that good stuff, and just simply liking this stream. We've got 400 odd people in here. Please do hit that thumbs up button. We've got so many topics to cover today, guys. We've got a fair old amount of them. So we've got Mr. Kill Jr. for $5 says, I just want Avatar 2 to be good. I really want to stop being pessimistic after seeing the downfall of so many of my favorite movie franchises. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it's pessimistic, though. You know, like I think people, it's unfortunate, isn't it? You know, when realism crosses over with pessimism, you know, and there's a fine line between the two. I think ultimately, you know, it's not pessimistic to look at Avatar 2 needing to hit $2 billion just to break even as a potential that film will have a shortfall on and struggle to hit profit. I don't think that's too much of a stretch, because if you think of the amount of films that have crossed well over $2 billion, there's not many of them. So that's just realism. It's not pessimism. And I think, unfortunately, people do confuse the two when it comes to these hot button subjects, because they're fans of things and they don't want their thing that they're a fan of to have a negative air or aura surrounding it. I don't know if any of you guys have anything else to say on that, pessimism and realism.
Well, I think for me, just as far as like reviewing stuff, on the channel, I just try to make sure I'm seeing like maybe international, independent stuff of merit, because nowadays I kind of know what I'm getting from Hollywood. So if I was just watching Hollywood stuff, right now it's coming out, it's like what, out of every 20 films there's a Top Gun. That's not good.
Yeah, it sort of goes back to the old saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. It's like, how many times do they got to throw garbage in your face before you're gonna start wondering and kind of going into new movies that are coming out, like, okay, is this gonna be good? Everybody wants the movies that they are looking forward to seeing to be good, but the track record over the last 10 years or so just has not been good.
Well, I mean, so selective with what I watch too.
I think to build off of that as well, like, Netflix has a bad rap for a reason. Whenever something comes out on Netflix, we all go, well, of course, it's going to be like this, because we know we've got a historical track record to work from for Netflix productions to go, well, is it going to be good, or is it going to be infested with box ticking? Probably the latter. And that's realism. That's being very realistic on your approach to things. So it's a very similar point. Like Hollywood, Netflix is just a case study where it's very much just on one platform, but Hollywood movies should be looked at in a very similar format. They are just from one platform, i.e. Hollywood as a platform to produce these things, and they tend to be quite homogenous in their approach to filmmaking now. As Paulie said, seldom do you get a Top Gun. There's very rarely do you get a Top Gun nowadays. So I just say it's realism as opposed to pessimism. But I get it. I get the point. I get people wanting for it to come out and succeed or whatever you like. I get that fully.
Well, of course, we all want to see, we don't want anything we go see I'd rather have something surprise me and be good, thinking it's going to be bad, than be upset by something that I thought I was going to love. And who doesn't want that? But like, similarly, but in a different kind of direction. Like, I was recently watching Tarantino on Howard Stern, and he was talking about how how Martin Scorsese is not wrong when he
Mm.
says like all these superhero movies and shit like that are not cinema. But at the same time, to kids nowadays, those are cinema. He's like, because, I was talking to some
Yeah.
17, 16-year-old kid at a party the other day, and he was talking to me about the Marvel films and stuff like that. And, I'm a huge Marvel fan, he said, and I collected all the Marvel comic books growing up and stuff like that. But he goes, yeah, if we had these kind of movies when I was coming up into becoming a filmmaker, maybe I'd be interested. But seeing as they are now, no, these are not the kind of movies I want to fucking make. And he's like, yeah, this is the last thing Martin Scorsese would want to fucking make, right? Because those aren't really movies to us, right? He goes, I can see where a lot of kids nowadays could not understand why a movie like Taxi Driver or even Reservoir Dogs or something like that, would, and I'm paraphrasing here, but, I don't think he mentioned Reservoir Dogs, but he did mention something like Taxi Driver and a couple other movies, how those don't even exist right now because we don't get movies like that, or at least not in the mainstream.
Yeah.
When you go to the theater, everything's a superhero movie, or and he said, a Harry Potter movie or what have you, whatever the next Fast and Furious Star Wars thing is, kind of what he said. It's these big franchise things. We don't get the smaller pictures anymore like we used to.
Auteur sort of films, yeah.
Auteur. That's yeah. And I was telling you about that Mexican auteur who won't come to Hollywood, and I'm like, please stay there. Keep doing your films.
Yeah.
Because even or even like the the Del Toros and them, they don't come out with movies every year. So but it's always an event. Which directors are rated. Which directors are events like, wow, Nolan's got a new
Christopher
film.
Nolan. Yeah, he's someone that you hear about a Nolan film. He's one of the few directors now where that still perks my interest.
Or Tarantino or somebody like that.
Nolan.
Tarantino. Yeah. There's very few. Yeah, very few directors that, again, Del Toro is one of them as well. But they'll come out and I go, oh, I'm interested. I want to have a look. I would not necessarily, I'm just going to lap it all up, but I want to have a look at the very least. But there's very few of them. Very, very few of them. Yeah.
Which I think at the end, with the big Iger news, I think it goes back to Iger just buying everything up, and look what he's done to Hollywood cinema the last 10 years. I mean,
well, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Let's get through some more of these super chats first before we get on to that whole Disney shit show, and it is a. Oh boy, how is it a shit show? So we've got Mr. Tickle Trunk for $5 Canadian says Avatar 1. It's the future with walking war mechs. Yet people still have wheelchairs. Yeah, that was always one of those weird things. Rocks called Unobtainium. Aspects of it written by 5-year-olds. Unobtainium is apparently a real thing, but it doesn't make it less dumb. Things in reality can still be dumb. So yeah, I completely agree with you. Basically. Akunin for 5.
It's
Belgian,
Bulgarian.
I guess. Bulgarian, I don't know.
I think it's Bulgarian Lev, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, says the only thing I remember about Avatar, Sigourney Weaver was in it. Yeah,
yeah.
That's fair enough.
They had blue people.
And she died.
Well, but apparently she's resurrected now in this one.
Now she's playing like the daughter or whatever in this one.
Yeah. I know. Marshmallow for £5 says some numbers to take into account. Assume a ticket costs £15 per person. US has a population approaching 350 million and 4,500 screens. Europe, approximately 750 million and approximately 40,000 screens. India, 1.2 billion and approximately 8,000 screens. Yeah,
you also got to figure if people actually fill all those screens within that, how many people are actually going, right? Like that's the thing.
But it's not just that either. It's the fact that because it's 3.5 hours long, you can't have as many screenings per day, which does hinder the films.
But going back to those Indian screens, they had their run time for their movies are always 2 hours 45 minutes. They have intermission. You can go, buy concessions, take your break, you come back. It's like a religion. Like they got it down, and 8,000 screens.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you got about what 5 or 6 different film industries vying for your dollar.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're gonna get quality.
Yeah, we're not even taking into account what other countries are doing at the same time. Like, if it's opening everywhere at the same time, even.
Yeah, well, yeah, worldwide release matters. I mean, this film's just going to leak online. Piracy is even higher than it was back then. So this film will just leak online pretty much straight away. People, if they want to watch, you got to remember, piracy's even higher now.
Especially with the state of the economy. I mean,
especially with the state of the economy, people are incentivized now to pirate this film more so than they ever were, right? So that will play a role in this as well. And that is something which I don't think people have realized. Or it hasn't been in the discussion as much. I mean, I've not raised it, so even me saying it's not in the discussion. I mean, I'm party to that, not bringing it up, but it is an important factor. Mr. Tickle Trunk for $2 Canadian says virtual reality came out between Avatar 1 and 2. Yeah, VR, Oculus. Yeah, you are right. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? Like, I mean, I don't particularly give a shit about virtual reality, but I do know that some people do. Some people really like it. But it goes to show the state of technology on a whole and how it's sort of progressing and moving forwards. And then we're just still left in like a video game world with Avatar 2. And I'm just going to say again, thank you so much for the super chats. It goes a long way to helping support these streams, supporting the show and the channels just in general. If you want to subscribe to everyone's channels that are here on the panel today, you'll find links to them in the description box. But also, I have a second channel where I run these clips now. The live streams go in a whole playlist. They're not on the main channel. You want just the clips and stuff, just the good stuff, right? Just the good bits. Then check out the link in the description box to Miss H Reviews live archives. I've not done a plug of that yet, so needed to do that. Our favorite Mexicano, Mexican Iron Man for $9.99 says, how come the indigenous peeps are always blue and in water? What's going on over at Disney, Marvel, and Disney Fox? Bluefish people, lives matter. I'm going to start a GoFundMe for indigenous brown pigment. Well, you raise a good point. Is I mean, it is a weird coincidence, isn't it, that Black Panther Wakanda Forever under Disney, Marvel Disney, which now Fox is under Disney. Their people are all blue water people, and then James Cameron can't be happy with that because he's ripped on Marvel movies a lot, so he can't be happy with them doing a water-based movie so close to his. Surely you can imagine that would piss him off. I think anyway. Paulie's there messing with something.
Oh, my light.
Oh dear.
Oh,
Chucky's there, Tom. I see Chucky.
Oh,
Love it. We got Austin Smith for $4.99. Says, as a writer, it saddens me to see Hollywood's lack of creativity. I'm writing my own story. That's why I'm writing my own stories, books that I'd want to see. Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. Like people always ask. They don't always, but they have done up until a certain point, and then I stopped streaming and didn't really get asked very much. But people did ask whether I would make any more films and things like that. I would like to, and it's the same kind of principle, isn't it? I'm not seeing what I want to see, so might as well, if I can, just go out and make it myself. Obviously, I can't do anywhere near as what you would get production wise, but still worthwhile exploring if you can. And I agree, it's sort of a good approach to have. Just doing your own thing. It's similar to what people do here on YouTube. They're sick of mainstream media talking absolute bollocks. So people populate YouTube and say stuff from, a more, it's still a biased perspective, but it's not a one singular homogenous mainstream media narrative perspective, I guess. Yeah.
And if anything too, whether you write something or film something, it gives you an appreciation and a deeper understanding of stuff that we love, because you've stopped becoming just a fan or just a reader, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go into it, and you're like, so I think it's go create, go do something. I think it's it's beneficial on a lot of different levels for you guys.
Yeah. And that brings us right on to our next topic. The main headline of the show.
Oh, Lordy.
Disney, look, I did a report on this, but Bob Chapek's gone. We've got Iger back. I know there's a whole bunch of people saying this is great. It's not great at all. Bob Iger set up all of the things that Bob Chapek is being lambasted for. Bob Chapek's no better, just as an FYI. But he's the fall guy, and now Iger's coming back to save the day, but he's not going to save the day. It's still going to be shit. Tom, what do you think of this? What do you think? Give me your thoughts, mate.
Lord almighty. I mean, this is some Game of Thrones level shit.
Yeah, it's a great analogy.
Like,
I love that.
It is.
Wait, stop. I thought House of Dragons stopped. Shit. I thought we were done with season 1. This is the spin-off show.
House of Mouses. I mean, it is insane. Like, not even a few months ago, he had the backing of the board. He had a 3-year renewal. But what I can see here, and it's getting tougher and tougher to ignore, as much as some people want to say I may be wearing a tinfoil hat, Bob Iger pulled a coup and a half on this motherfucker. Like, excuse my French here, but like, this was some coup de grace, or how do we say it, kind of stuff. Like, it was just like he come in and just, is that what it is? Coup d'etat? Yeah, like, yeah, it is just crazy how this worked out here, because the fact that they lost faith in him in this fleeting moment, I don't buy it. There's too many things stacking up here. You had Elon buying Twitter, you had the FTX thing happen, you had Trump announce he's coming back. I think all of those things weighing into some Chinese issues. I think the board panicked. I think some people made some threats.
The elections, the economy.
Exactly. All those things. And Bob is like, well,
prices.
You know, I'm the Bob, you know, even though this is the guy that got them where they're at. Let's not forget that he's been basically running the company de facto for the last 2 years prior to this 11 months that Bob Chapek finally got to run the company. And in this 11 months, he's run into nothing but resistance. Like, everybody hates him inside the company because he actually made the creatives answer to him instead of getting to do whatever the fuck they want, spending money willy-nilly and making shit that nobody wants to see. They didn't like that. But of course, he didn't really get a chance to do anything, because everything we're still seeing, even though these flops, because they will try to blame everything on Chapek, but the funny thing is none of this shit was greenlit under his tenure. Black Panther, all this stuff is under Bob Iger's tenure still. So nothing is really, you can really dump on Bob other than he buckled when he probably shouldn't have when it came to the Florida bit. Because at that point, and then I love how people are trying to say that, oh, the woke's out the building. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? What crack are you smoking? Because this was the only guy who was trying to take the company back to neutral.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you guys bombarded him so much that I wouldn't be surprised if it got to a point where there was an argument where, you know, well, Bob did this and Bob did this, and Chapek goes, you know what? I am sick and fucking tired of hearing about Bob. You guys want Bob so bad, then get Bob back. Goodbye. That could even have been something like that happened, because we know Bob has been manipulating crap from behind the scenes for the whole time. He's got tons and tons of people inside the company who are his loyalists. And the only thing that this may have a bright center to is that we got to remember that KK was removed from Star Wars and pushed over to her Blood and Bones thing by Iger, and Favreau and Filoni were inserted. Actually, Favreau and then Filoni on KK's request were inserted into taking over Star Wars. And then Chapek said, well, what are you doing with this crap over here? Get your butt over here and go to work. Not understanding that she was part of the problem, evidently. But what we also have going on now is that Marvel is taking a nosedive. The parks are not doing as well as they should be. There's all kinds of problems, and everybody's going to blame it all on Chapek. He is the scapegoat. He has become the fall guy. And now Bob Iger is coming in to, quote unquote, save the day. But I'm sure that they're being saved by a lot of outside interest money right now, as Paulie was pointed out. You know, there's a lot of political movements shaking going on right now. And I'm not going to try and get political, but when when Trump made that announcement last week, that just guaranteed 2 more years of this shit, basically.
Well, so that you alluded to a lot of what's in here, basically. Financial Times, like, Walt Disney executives staged a revolt against ousted chief Bob Chapek. So apparently, senior Walt Disney executives led a rebellion against chief executive Bob Chapek in recent weeks, which resulted in his ousting and replacement with predecessor Bob Iger, according to people familiar with the matter. But could that be coordinated by Iger? Yeah. The covert campaign to overthrow Chapek, which began in the summer, so literally that, in summer, came after the outgoing chief executive lost the confidence of some members of his top team during a tumultuous 33 months at the helm of the media empire. Not through his own fault, through everything that was set up by Iger. So people saying, I got a message saying, the king's returned. I'm like, you're insane. He's shit. A lot of people were approaching the board. Iger loyalists who felt marginalized, said one person with knowledge of the talks. Shares in Walt Disney obviously dropped. And by Monday afternoon, Iger had dismissed Kareem Daniel, a trusted, so this is when he took over, a trusted Chapek ally who ran the company's streaming strategy. So Disney executives began approaching the board, which is chaired by Susan Arnold, a few months ago to express concerns about Chapek's leadership. But if they had half the brains that they think they did, they would realize that this stuff had been established and set up by Iger. Christine McCarthy, chief financial officer, was among the executives who complained. 3 other people said Disney declined to comment. The board were clueless about what to do, one person added. The final straw was Disney's bruising earnings release on November 8th, during which Chapek reported the company's streaming business had lost $1.5 billion during the most recent quarter. $1.5 billion. 3 days later, Chapek announced job cuts, telling staff in an email, "We're going to have to make tough and uncomfortable decisions."
Now, here's something we heard on our show the other night from WDW Pro. Was that there was the basically some people, like, they gave him carte blanche, or not carte blanche, but they gave him the go ahead to do this cuts. But then when they found out what some of the cuts were going to be, some very important people stepped in, and that's kind of what set this whole thing in motion, I guess. Even though I guess some of this was starting, we did read and hear some stuff about how roughly half the board was starting to lose confidence in him coming into and before the recent quarterly call, and that, I guess, was another issue that was taken, was how he handled the call for some reason. I don't know.
What's interesting is that, people close to Chapek said he became aware of the moves against him some weeks ago, but was caught off guard by the speed of events. The abrupt dismissal will entitle Chapek to a significant payout. Under his old contract at the end of 2021, he was entitled to an estimated $54 million in cash and stock in the event of early termination. The company has not published the full details of his most recent contract. I mean, it's going to be more, I would imagine.
Probably.
Iger, 71, has agreed to stay on for 2 years to help steady the ship and choose another successor. Chapek was his successor. He chose him anyway.
Actually, I think the board chose Chapek, if I remember right. And that was the thing that we were discussing the other night. I don't know how accurate that is, because I figured, like, that would be one of Iger's, like, stipulations. He's like, I'll come back and do this, but I want to pick my successor this time.
Maybe. Well, it's funny, there's a Wells Fargo analyst here. This goes to show just how out of touch everyone actually is with the matter. Wells Fargo analyst is like, well, the announcement doesn't solve all of Disney's problems. We think investors will embrace it, as it puts perhaps the best leader in media at the helm with a mandate to shake things up. What? Shake the things up which you set in motion that is now...
Right.
I mean, Disney Plus was his baby. Disney Plus was Iger's baby. It's what he'd set up and established before he left. Right? He was trying to get that off the ground, and then he left. What is wrong with people? Why is people's short-term memory loss so bad that they're praising Iger coming back? He established a lot of this crap. I just don't get it.
A lot of the people in the industry just want him back. That's the thing.
Love this meme.
This is just the meme created itself, basically.
Brilliant. Why would Chapek do this? It's like, yeah. Goodness me.
It writes itself, right? Like you couldn't,
But this is the thing, isn't it? Like it this is not going to be a success now for Disney. Unless they use this as an opportunity to now say, that was all Chapek. We're not woke. We're going to scrap all of that stuff. Maybe that's what they're leaning towards. I don't know. What do you guys think? Paulie, we haven't heard from you, buddy.
I'm just trying to control my temper. I keep reading something else.
Oh, great. Thanks for paying attention.
I'm totally tuned out.
Thanks. Totally tuned out. Love it. Cheers, bro. Nick.
You asked me.
I did. Yeah, I thought you were paying attention.
Check out the private chat, man. I'm throwing you nuggets. Nuggets.
I know.
Gold.
I've seen it. I know.
Pure content gold.
Aztecian gold, right?
Aztecian gold.
So, yeah,
indigenous gold.
I'm pretty much in the same mindset as Tom is on this. Iger kind of started this whole woke Disney garbage crap. He completely took, bought Lucasfilm from George Lucas, and then conned him into thinking that he was going to make his movies that he wanted, and completely turned around and did something else, and pissed him off. And I just don't see anything changing with this. The only thing that changed was Disney stock went up like $10, once he got announced, like the next day. But with the state of the economy, with the garbage that they're putting out there, you could have freaking the Michael Jordan of CEOs at Disney. And during a pandemic, during inflation, during the way that the economy is going right now, and all the garbage that they're putting out there, it wouldn't have mattered who was in that position. It was all going downhill. So yeah, he's 100% the scapegoat here. They'll put the blame on him. Nothing will change until they actually change the content that they're putting out there, and start giving people what they actually want, and get off of this activist agenda pushing nonsense that they like to throw in there. Not with Iger in there. Absolutely not. It's going to be more the same. And it will probably even get probably worse.
Okay, I have an opinion, Nate. I have an opinion.
Stop the press.
Okay,
Paulie's paid attention.
All right, I agree with Nick.
Oh, good opinion. Fucking what a cop out. Pimp slap you from across the pond.
Breaking news. Paulie agrees with me.
Whatever.
Breaking wind.
Well, anyway, we'll shuffle on to another topic real quick. But first, just get to some more super chats, ladies and gents. So thank you to everyone using the super chat function. We've got Marshmallow for £5 says, pondering on the notion of art imitating life, life imitating art, and how it's increasing relevance in determining where humanity will go. Thoughts? Well, we're running on a cyclical element at the moment. A lot of infantilization, loads of people, working on, things of the past and the sort of, the love of what's come before us. We're not really progressing much forward. So I wouldn't really say I see anything of art imitating life and life imitating art. I just see the cyclical nature of media in general. And we're even getting it in cars, for instance. The modern cars, the electric cars, are now getting an 80s vibe to them. So we're getting this sort of cyclical approach to a lot of stuff, actually. Even fashions come back, and again, it's that cyclical nature to it. I don't really get the art imitating life part. Guys, any thoughts on that?
It is kind of a cyclical nature. I think you're right. Go ahead, Paulie.
No. I'm sorry, bro. Go for it.
Well, no, Paulie. I thought you had an opinion. Come on, no, Paulie.
Yeah.
Paulie, you got an opinion,
ahead,
mate.
Man.
Pondering on the notion of art.
You got an opinion.
Life. The problem is that if art is imitating life, what they're promoting in life is crap. So art is crap right now. I totally agree with Marsh. And then I'm just talking about of Hollywood art. It's
Mm,
you know it's very much right now about real world. You keep hearing that real world
Yeah.
issues in our
Which
films.
steals the
Was that-
romance
yeah.
out of film. Really.
And
Like, think about
representing
it.
more of the real world, how the real world looks, and
Yeah.
make sure you get
But
the
what-
representation in there, even if it's bad representation. Wakanda 2 forever.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, yeah, life does imitate art is imitating life, and life imitating art is that, you have stale creativity. And
Mm,
Well, what I mean
So-
by romance, I don't just mean love romance. What I'm talking about is the fact of romanticizing things
yeah.
has been completely lost. A
Mm.
great example is look at The Godfather. It's about some very horrible motherfucking people.
or
But they
Yeah.
make them engaging and they make them
Yes.
lovable and
Well,
understandable and relatable. And that's what movies used to do, is put you in somebody else's shoes, in somebody else's world, maybe in a situation or place you normally want to find yourself in. But for two, maybe 3 hours, you do, because
Or
you
look
just
at
want
Cobra
to do
Kai.
it from the safety of your home. Exactly. Cobra Kai
Yeah.
is a great example where
Cobra Kai is a
that is
great
very
example.
a romanticized version of
Yeah, there's no
a
real
lot of things. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, but we love these characters, and they're having, they're, or and I say this before. Look at Narcos Mexico. It's every character.
oh, that
in
heavily romanticizes that whole thing. Very
So
much so.
rom-
Yes.
Yeah, and they're all bad people. But just like you said with Godfather, it's romanticized. Like you're into the human element. So and the cartels in Mexico, that's a very serious issue. Um, they handle life imitating art excellent in Narcos Mexico.
I really liked Blow.
There's
with
no,
Johnny
yeah.
Depp.
Well, I
Right.
mean, just in that, like
silly.
you can have verisimilitude in things like Superman, right? Like that's what Richard Donner wanted. He's like, make it believable, but there's still that romantic element. And again, I don't just mean the love romance side of it. I mean that romantic element of we're telling you a mythological tale about this guy who came to Earth, and he has superpowers, right? And we got to make that believable, but also it still feels like it's a fantasy, so there's that fine line there, and he does a great job of it. Same thing with Star Wars. We love these movies. Jaws even is a great example. Nowhere in a million years is that really going to happen like that, but we like to think that could happen. And that's what making movies and watching movies was all about. And one of my favorite stories is hearing Peter Benchley freaking out at the end of Jaws going, "No, Steven, that would never happen. A shark would never do that." And Steven's like, "I don't care." He goes, "If I've had the audience for 2 hours, they're going to believe anything I put in front of their faces right now. And they think then they're going to want this to happen to that shark." And you're right. We know that could never possibly probably happen in real life, but it doesn't matter. That's not the point of movies. The point of movies is to show us something that we're never, ever going to be able to see in real life, but make us believe that we're seeing it. And that romance, that part of art is kind of gone. Sure, we get that. And maybe that's why we gravitate towards superhero movies so much, even though they're still representing some of the worst parts of these things, like Paulie just said, is because we're looking for that romanticized version of ourselves, right? We want to try and aspire to be these characters, and that's why we usually try to be like them, right? I'm sure Nick, he wanted to be like Luke when he grew up and stuff like that, for instance. And that's why, it was such a big deal for that character to be destroyed in the sequel trilogy, for instance.
Yeah. And Han Solo. Han Solo is one of my favorite characters. So
Or
Force
Han Solo. I
Awakens-
was just picking an example,
Yeah.
but
But both of those two were big for me growing up, for sure.
Following up on what Marsh said in this, and then in the chat just right now, he's talking about supposed to be a form of catharsis. Actually, not necessarily. If it's a comedy, it's just meant to entertain you. There, if it's a musical, it's meant to enlighten, as far as musically, as far as those other senses. The best drama, the best satirical comedy, The catharsis comes from the incongruity of what these characters are doing and saying in the scenes, and Hollywood has no idea how to even execute that. Let me say it again. Great comedy, and when it's satirical, it's the incongruity of the moment of the characters and the situation. I just saw this film and I was telling Nate about it. I'm almost ashamed I hadn't seen it. It's like 22 years old. It's a Coen Brothers meets dark Mexican humor. I was blown away. And you know what? And it's real political, it's social commentary, but it is hilarious. And you're rooting for the guy who just turns into a complete piece of shit. That's great satire. That's great comedy. That's great drama. Hollywood doesn't have that they can't even contain all that right now because they're funneling it through here and right here. It's just agenda. It's just your definitions, and that's it. You're the right color, you're the right this and that. And my brothers and sisters are looking through this fucking filter the whole time. They don't see the whole world of what it is. That it's not just us. It's not just this, right? Because that is bad storytelling. It's this. And yeah, man,
well, you're not wrong, Paulie. Let's look at it, and I'll try and keep this quick. But I mean, I kind of get what you're saying in a sense. Like, okay, look at a movie like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Two white guys. Nowadays, a movie like that wouldn't be made the same way. But what is that movie about? Two people who come from completely different worlds that just can't seem to get out of each other's way, right? Like that's kind of the whole idea of the comedy. But it's a very poignant comedy at the end of the day too. There's a huge heart to that story, and Hollywood wouldn't make that movie now. Not like that. No, John Candy's character would probably be played by Cedric the Entertainer. Yeah. And Steve Martin's character would be like Dax Shepard or something. He'd be a racist or something like that.
It would be something different.
Exactly. Yeah.
It would be, because with Plane Trains, like you said, it's pure in the situations of these two human beings. One is so lonely and one is just dying to get home and can't. I mean, the situations there are just,
and has everything the other wishes they had, basically.
Yeah. You're right. And we would totally taint if we were to redo that today.
Yeah, I actually watched a clip the other day from an old episode of Married with Children where Al was like completely sexualizing this girl that walked into the house and then wound up being in a car, being shuttled around by like three extremely overweight women, and he was completely making jokes about them in their weight the whole time. I'm like, it was fucking hilarious, but there's no way that could be made today.
It's the
because
same as,
you cannot offend people nowadays because everybody's such a bunch of fucking fairies nowadays. You can't offend anybody. Comedy is not the same. Everybody's got to watch what they say, watch what they do. Like it's turned into a complete joke.
It's the same as Wild Wild West with Will Smith, which seems like a pretty tame thing, right? And it is tame, but there were jokes about disabilities. The color of Will Smith's skin, him being black. You can't do that. You can't do that today. Like that, it'd be an uproar.
Absolutely.
It'd be an uproar. So we got an accident seller. 50 Norwegian kroner says people that say the woke is gone because Bob Iger is back have the memory of a goldfish who was in charge during The Last Jedi. Did they forget?
Yeah. Very true.
Exactly.
The big difference here is that Bob Iger knows how to play the game. Bob Chapek didn't know how to play this game. And nobody gives you a rule book. Exactly. Nobody gives you a rule book. Chapek came from the park side of things. He wasn't part of the entertainment side of things. Bob Iger knows how to make moves, right? He knows people. He's one of the most powerful people in Hollywood. Exactly. He's a handshaker. He's a mover and a groover. Chapek jumped into a pond and he had no idea what he was into. The analogy I came up with the other day is he's basically a baby fawn who's discovering water for the first time and doesn't realize before it's way too late that their legs are gone because they've been chewed away by piranhas.
Yeah.
That's basically Bob Chapek. He had no idea what he was getting into, and before he knew it, he was way in over his head.
Yeah, I like that analogy. It's a good one.
Real quick before we move on, a couple of people in the chat were talking about Apocalypto. I loved Apocalypto. It's pretty historically inaccurate, It never claimed to be. It's a Mayan action adventure movie. And people are talking about, oh, Namor's the first this and first that. It's like, no, it was done many years ago. Full indigenous cast,
And the
Mayan
language.
spoken language the entire time.
Yeah.
It was a feat. It was a cinematic feat, and it should be praised and it should be noted. Yeah, it was a killer film. And that's what Mayans look like. They don't look. I'm not going after Tenoch, but they do not look like Tenoch Huerta. Mayans are not.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're talking about, like, if you everyone's so much into historic accuracy and representation. Tenoch is a Mexicano. He's got indigenous blood. Don't get me wrong, but Mayas are very, those are Indios. That's that Apocalypto was straight up 100% as far as indigenous actors.
Well, we got him in Aliens versus Predator too.
Yeah, I mean, that was cartoon fun.
Yeah.
Dear, oh dear. Right, moving on. Get these super chats done, and we'll shuffle on top of us. We've got Gary for £10 says they've changed the avatars a bit. The inside of their ears was the same type of pink skin dogs have now. They are blue and look like the inside of human ears. One of them also have an ear stretching earrings. Yeah, they've made subtle adjustments and changes to the design. I don't know why. People always go back and adjust stuff. I don't really get it, but it's not going to save the film. Mexican Iron Man for $9.99 says, with the Eiger news, I have come to the solid conclusion that every IP that I care about under the Disney roof will suck in perpetuity. I shall die having watched all my favorite IPs die before me.
Yeah. Feels that way.
It does. It does.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Up until I saw what I saw, I would never have agreed with Mike or Tom, but I
What did you say?
I do not care anymore with Marvel. I do not care anymore.
Okay.
I'm almost there with Star Wars, but this is just garbage, bro.
And Andor keeps it afloat for me. I like Andor.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you missed it Saturday night, Nate. Paulie and
I'm so sorry.
Robert Meyer Burnett and Paulie, they were having a little back and forth on the Wakanda Forever stuff.
Listen, I love Robert. I just it's like I don't buy it anymore where you're going after where anybody is going after fans.
Yeah,
it's a dead argument. This is that movie's arguably bad, racist, stereotypical, bad writing, bad film. I'm talking about Wakanda. So
yeah,
I was pretty
is
passionate.
a bad film. Yeah, sorry, I was I can't remember what I was doing. I think I crashed out actually. I think I was asleep. It ended up quite late.
I'm sure it was pretty late for you.
Yeah, sorry about that. We got £20 from Richard Curtis says, what was that quote at the beginning of Apocalypto about how an empire can't fall until it's destroyed itself from inside? Yeah, Disney, yeah. Anyway, I hope this is the end of Disney destroying culture for the people that love it most. I tell you what, you are right. That's I don't know what the quote is, but that's great. The fall of empires does come from within, right? Like, that's great. I love that.
Just hearing that quote, just thinking about that, I almost hope that it gets so bad for Disney and they keep pushing this and it gets so bad that they got to start selling stuff off, selling Lucasfilm to somebody else that could maybe do something better with it, selling Marvel off to somebody that could maybe do something better with it,
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, like, how does it get much worse? I mean, well, I mean, it will get much worse. It can get much worse. But where's the wake up call? They've been on this downward trend for ages. It's not been a slow, steady decline. So it's not been a rush decline. It's been a slow, steady decline for quite a while, and they haven't managed to save themselves yet. Like, it's not good. And you think at one point but also I think that they've nurtured a culture around themselves that they can't change because they've got too many people singing from that hymn sheet, that woke hymn sheet. The indoctrination hymn sheet where they do want to be, putting kids' movies, with trans people in it and stuff, but, where trans men get periods and all this kind of stuff. Parents don't want their children watching this stuff. They just don't.
Nope.
right? And Disney is ultimately about family. And when you start manipulating people's children, family gets a little bit pissed off. And so I don't think that they can change anything, because I think that they've worked themselves into a situation where that's the only road they have. They're at crossroads right now. What happens in the next few months will determine whether they just continue down that same path or they take the right turn. If we see a whole range of firings, cool, great. If we don't, forget about it. It'll be the same thing. Be exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
But worse.
Honestly, I'll go one step farther and I'll say a bunch of people that probably left or were fired under Chapek's tenure might come back. Like, I even posited that, because, you know, he said he's supposed to be grooming his successor. Poor choice of words there, Disney. But what if he brings back, like, say, Peter Rice, the guy that, you know, Chapek axed because he had designs on Chapek's job?
Oh, that's a good
that
point.
was rumored to be one of the people that Bob Iger actually wanted to take over for him. So that could be something that could happen too. If we see that happen, that's a whole nother, then I'll know this was a coup, right? Like that's where we're getting to the point where this is just too convenient. Like, this motherfucker planned this whole goddamn thing. Like, from the start, he knew because he knew things were going to hit the fan with COVID. And that's when he come back in and he's like, well, it's not time for this guy to take over yet because we need me. You know, he inserted himself then for 2 years. Then he backed off so Bob could do his job, but he undermined him the whole time. And I've already said this already, so it don't matter. But it's just, to me, this whole thing stinks. Like, this is the worst thing that they could do for themselves, but it's kind of funny. So, like, it's like, whatever. You want to see yourself just completely go under, now's the time to watch. But there's a bunch of rumors flying.
Burn to the ground.
There's rumors about Apple flying. There's rumors about Kathleen Kennedy flying now, so we'll see.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the Kathleen Kennedy one. So Mick Kay for $5 Australian, I think, says, if you want to see something that'll offend everyone, watch an Australian TV show, Kingswood Country. This show couldn't air today. I think I've heard of that, and I think I remember it being absolutely brutal. So yeah, right. So rumors of KK leaving. You sent me this, didn't you, Nick?
Yep,
my dude. Well, that's pretty much saying what we've all been saying, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, no, but you lead the way. What do you think about this? What is the rumor exactly?
Nick?
Oh, I thought he was talking to you, Tom.
Or me.
Yeah.
Anyone.
So yeah, I mean, the rumor of her being gone has been going on since after The Last Jedi. Honestly, there's been rumors of her getting canned and kicked to the curb. She just keeps getting contract renewals. I'm still in the mindset of she's gonna leave on her own after, or maybe she's pushed out behind the scenes, but we'll never know that. It'll be made out that she's deciding to leave on her own after the Indy 5 comes out next year. I don't see her going anywhere. If she did get canned and it was official and she got kicked out the door before the release of Indy 5, I would be shocked. I would be completely shocked if that was to happen. At some point in time, yeah, she's obviously going to be gone. But with all the rumors floating around with Iger coming back and stuff, and in the state of Disney Star Wars, I still don't see her going anywhere until after Indy 5.
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, we've been maintaining ourselves that she's not going anywhere till at least after Indiana Jones, at least I have anyway. And I mean, granted, there's some people I respect who have brought rumors that she's going to be gone here, she's going to be gone there, but you and I both know, and most people have said it, and I just got to kind of remind people that she is still the most, probably even more powerful than Kevin Feige in Hollywood. People got to remember that. Big. Like, she's not going anywhere until she's good and fucking ready to go someplace.
Yeah.
You know, they'll do stuff with her internally, but they're not going to publicly humiliate her in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, she's a woman. They can't.
Beyond that, she's still one of the most powerful. She's in the Guinness World Book of Records, for fuck's sake, for producing films. So, like, there's a lot to keep in mind here about
Well,
that.
this
The funny
is-
thing is this quote from Campia. This isn't coming from like Doomcock or anybody else with like this is. They're literally quoting Campia from his show here.
But I still think that's bollocks. Like Campia, I mean, look, you know, look at his junk, Campia, right? That's one of the best quotes of Campia of all time. You don't remember this from Spider-Man: No Way Home? Campia.
Oh my
was telling
God, the
people to
cock! Yes.
Yeah.
Look at Tobey Maguire's
the la la.
Look at his
the
penis.
la la la. But John Campia, said this. This is what I've heard. I've heard that the decision to remove Kathleen Kennedy has already been made. Of course, if you're hearing about it, of course it's been made. Ridiculous. And that she will be gone either sometime before or very, very, very shortly thereafter the release of Indiana Jones 5. Now, I want to be very, very clear here. I cannot independently say to you and confirm to you that this is a fact. I will say that one of the two people that have contacted me as 1,000% average, that's not a percentage, but whatever, on the things they've informed me of. Look, I from everything I know and what I've heard with respect to Disney, which is I don't hear a lot with regards to Star Wars and Lucasfilm. I hear a little bit here and there, a little bit of chatter, right? I mean, I heard before Andor, this would be one of those shows that this was going to be the one to watch. I think they were right because I love it, but whatever. But I'd heard that Kathleen Kennedy was not going ever before Indiana Jones 5. That was confirmed. It was a done deal.
Yeah.
She was 100% never going to be gone before Indiana Jones 5. And I also don't think she'll be gone shortly after the release of Indiana Jones 5 either. I don't think that makes sense from a perspective of business. We've just released the final chapter in a film franchise and the lead producer's gone. That's bad PR. They're not going to do that. They won't do that.
The movie comes out in July of next year, so I'm thinking September. October timeframe.
Well, here's the thing. You got to remember. Here's my prediction. She'll start getting a bunch of prestigious awards for shit. You'll start hearing about her talk. She'll have some big expose interview with like GQ or somebody like that. And it'll be all about what she wants to do in her retirement. Because she's not getting much younger. That's the thing. They're going to paint this as a retirement, is what they'll end up doing. She'll end up getting a Lifetime Achievement Award at the next year's Oscars after that. So not this next year, but the year after. And then, you're right, so roughly probably 6 months or so after Indiana Jones comes out, that's when we'll start hearing that she's going to announce her retirement, I bet. Which will roughly come right up to the same time as her contract.
Yep. Yeah, because she's going to be 70 next June.
That's what I'm saying. She's not a spring chicken anymore.
Yeah.
This is,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, it'll be interesting to see what happens. We shall see. And you know who's going to say that they were right all along when this happens?
Me?
Everybody who's been saying that.
Everybody who's been saying it, but you two, yeah.
No, I was going to say
haven't said
Doomcock.
shit.
Because
Doomcock.
saying literally every other fucking week. She's leaving, but that'll be funny anyway. On to our next subject, which we've covered before, which is actually Grace Randolph claiming that Henry Cavill doesn't have a contract. We also
Grace Gandalf.
I know. She's blocked me on Twitter now. Did anyone know this?
You know what's funny is James Gunn
that.
responded to one of her tweets too. Fucker.
She blocked me on Twitter. I've never even interacted with her. I don't know what I did.
I don't know what you did either.
But whatever. All right.
I think it's because you did that video and somebody probably posited to her that it was against you, and it probably said, I don't know if you even mentioned her in it.
I don't know. Probably. I don't care.
Then yeah, that's probably why.
I do what I want. Anyway, so
she gets
but anyway,
hurt easy.
I know, but James Gunn actually replied to this article, which is from your. You have a dealer with Mickey Sutton, don't you? I think
I know him. Yeah.
Well, anyway, he did this article. Says Henry Cavill's return as Superman could extend to TV as well, without a doubt. Cavill's Superman cameo, Black Adam's post-credit sequence electrified DC fans After all, for years, certain media outlets circulated false rumors that Henry Cavill had finished with the character. He wasn't, not even close. I scooped that Cavill would come back to DC on March 3rd, and I never wavered from it. Nevertheless, it is true. The previous Warner Brothers regime had no intention of hiring him again. We know that anyway. You can thank The Rock for fighting for him and Warner Brothers Discovery for making it happen. Yet when Deadline dropped that Cavill would appear at SDCC, he crushed hopes with his no-show. Well, he never said he would. And then talking about this new contract, and this is the point where James Gunn gets involved and also bitch slaps Grace Randa, which is funny. Ha 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 ha. But the anti-Snyderverse crowd continued to conjure doubts in people's minds. It doesn't matter if Cavill officially announced his Superman again on an Instagram video. He also abruptly quit Netflix's The Witcher at the same time. And this is, Cavill freeing up his schedule per small screen. It says, we were informed that at the moment, the plan is to have Cavill's Supes turn up in his standalone movies, crossover films, and also some TV shows. That's a lot, but it sounds like DC Studios is putting a lot of weight behind Cavill's Man of Steel, right? So we got that. And so obviously they tweeted that out. And James Gunn just jumps in and goes, I'm not sure if you're purposely lying or being taken advantage of by someone lying to you. But as I've stated before on here, no one knows what's happening at DC Studios right now, other than me and Peter. That would include writing up any new contracts for anyone at this point. So, one, it's funny anyway, because it, just sort of, it's just a funny response. I do like it when people respond and just go, "Now you're talking shit, shut up." But secondly, pimp slaps Grace Randolph and goes, we don't know what you don't know what you're talking about either. No one knows what they're talking about. So it just calls her out for being a complete liar as well, which I do like.
What saddens me is I've been almost 100% spot on with my reporting, and James ain't giving me one little bit of notice yet. And I've been saying this exact thing for weeks now. No one knows shit but James and Saffron, but yet he's been saying it. Now all of a sudden he never even said, yeah, this time guy's right. No, because he's probably not even listening to us, but no. I know he's somewhat aware of us, but I don't know how aware.
I talked to him the other day. He's a big fan of yours.
You fucker.
Just saying.
Hey, no. Don't shoot the messenger. But it does crack me up. Saying basically like, nah, he's talking absolute shit. Everyone's talking shit. No one knows. He's obviously aware of all the speculation, right? He's obviously, he's 100% aware of all of the speculation, and he's kind of had enough. Which is funny, it's good. It's good that he's just gone, no. I'm trying to see through whether he actually replied anything about Grace Randolph or not.
Well, it was just the one thing because she likes the.
Yeah, what was this?
She enjoyed. She enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. Oh, so he's like, "What was I transported to Earth too?" Because lately they've been, whatever. So,
but it is funny because obviously he's aware of her.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if he's aware of her and what she's been saying, the tweet response of no one knows anything at all but me and Peter, I would say that that's a pretty big slam dunk with respect to calling Grace Randolph a big lie.
David Raposo says, I need to get some things wrong to get noticed by Gunn. That's it. That's what. Well, I have been pretty strong stance on that. The Batman 2 is going to be predicated on whether or not the Penguin is any good or not, or is a hit. So I haven't seen anybody slap me down about that yet.
I do have insight with the Penguin.
So what do we all think then? Just the fact that it's funny, I'm sure.
Grace Randolph's an idiot. I've never liked her.
No. Not
as far as Mikey goes, I like Mikey and all, but I've been telling him and some of his other friends, I don't know where you're getting this shit from for weeks now. Because I'm like, nobody knows anything right now.
Yeah,
everything is being completely reset. The only people who know anything are James and Peter Safran, and they haven't talked to anybody from what I've heard. Same thing went with the Superman business. I know he maintains he's known since March, but I heard that all came together and it was somewhat confirmed later on, very last minute, because I was told time and time again they have a spot for him. Zaslav wants him there, but if he can't get him, he's prepared to move on without him. But they got it all together in September. Cavill actually confirmed that. He said they got him in there. They shot the scene. They did the little Instagram bit. So, and at that time I heard that he's back, but I never heard anything exact as far as like what his contract was going to be or anything like that.
Well, this is the thing.
But I also heard, and this goes along with that, is that he wasn't going to do shit until he heard a pitch.
Exactly, right. So this is the thing. Loads of so I said this in my video. Like I've been saying, look, I've heard that he's got a contract. I've heard that the contract would be for this, this, and this. But equally so, a lot of people don't seem to understand because there's wordplay afoot with a lot of this stuff. A lot of people he's not signed any contracts. Sure, a handshake in Hollywood is tantamount to a contract as well, right? He's not going to be announcing anything. He's not going to be doing interview tours where he's saying, yeah, I'm doing this. Yeah, I held out hope gently that I'd return, and look, I'm returning. If, regardless whether a written signature has been put down or not, a handshake has been done. He would have heard at the very least a pitch. Now we know that that there's a producer on board for Man of Steel 2. We know that they're not going to be doing that without Henry Cavill. Of course not. That's super dumb. And so he would have heard a pitch for that, and they just need to get a writer to write the bloody movie. So that there's very clearly a contract of some description around here.
I'm suggesting he may not even heard a steady pitch yet, because what I'm thinking has happened to this point is him showing up in Black Adam was him saying, yes, I want to come back. And he liked what he had heard from what he was told in that we're going to go back to a traditional Superman. Because everything that I have heard, Zaslav has said almost word for word in his public speaking. And he basically says, we're going to go back to a more traditional Superman. And as you noticed in the Black Adam, if you've seen it, spoilers, if you haven't, it's already on digital. When he shows up, he's got the classic curl and we hear the classic John Williams theme. So what that means is kind of what we've been hearing. And he wants a Superman 2, but he wants it to be a Superman movie, not a Man of Steel movie. And I've even heard that the title will probably be Superman, but they don't know yet. And that's where I heard that he hasn't signed on to anything necessarily yet, as far as like, he knows they're going to go forward with it. He's going to have some input, I guess, is the other thing. That was the other important thing. So he will have some knowledge of what's going on eventually. But right now, as far as I know, James Gunn was squirreled away doing this, probably when he's been in and out on Twitter. He's been just sitting there writing away on what he's going to be doing in the DC universe. And then he had to present that idea before Thanksgiving, which would be this week, to Zaslav, which could have been as soon as yesterday or this last weekend for all we know. And then now he's jumping over to do stuff for Guardians of the Galaxy, which times perfectly. So that means as soon as he was done presenting his idea to Zaslav, he's going to go on the publicity tour for Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. Bada bing, bada boom. Zaslav's going to go over everything this weekend. And then that's when, in the next couple of weeks, and we heard in December, going into next year is when we're finally going to start hearing bits and pieces about what the plan is going to be going forward. And all my reporting has come to be. So in that respect, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but when it comes to people like Grace Randolph, I've laughed at a lot of their reporting when it comes to this shit too, because they've been pretty much completely off. And the same thing with people who've been pushing this idea that the Snyderverse was returning and stuff like that. I'm like, no, we're getting a complete reset. We're going to have some of the same actors, but it's going to be like a completely different tone going forward. I would expect it to be more of the traditional Superman tone from what I've been hearing. So,
yeah, well, that's what I heard. It was going to be, much more Superman that we know, and that came from Zaslav himself by basically saying, "Yeah, we've not had a Superman movie in X, Y, and Z amount of years." It's like, oh yeah, so he's not even counting them as actual Superman movies at this point. So. Yeah.
Well, and I was told he was a Superman fan, a big Superman fan. And a lot of the things that I was told he did come out and say in some of those interviews and speeches that he was talking about. So that's the thing, is like, I trust my sources on this right now. more than I've ever trusted anybody at this point. So, and the same thing happened this week when I was told that Black Adam was going to hit video on demand today, and it did. So, and they didn't really advertise that or anything.
Yeah.
It
But also
came out
leaked as well,
yesterday.
didn't it? Didn't they sort of expedite that because it leaked?
I might have. I don't know. I wasn't paying
Yeah,
attention to the leakage side of things.
Well, no, I remember seeing an article about it, basically saying, "Oh, it's leaked." So I think that's
It
why
could
they
have.
sort of expedited that process.
I've been hearing for close to a month now that it was going to come out on the 22nd. So just before Thanksgiving, and it was to basically give Black Panther some competition for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Let's shuffle on. So we've got Gary here. Says, just saw a GIF that says, "How is Ghost in the Shell race swap bad, but Little Mermaid okay? At least Ghost made more sense. It was saying how bad being forced into a body that looks nothing like you is." Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
See, here's the problem, Gary. You're making sense.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's not allowed.
That's a big no-no.
Sense is not allowed. We don't do that. No. No good. Right. So what we're going to do now is sort of talk a little bit more about indie, I guess, and KK a little bit, not massively, not massive. Oh, for goodness sake, not massively, just a little bit of KK, Indiana Jones 5 news. And we now know who Phoebe Waller-Bridge is playing, and it's Indy's goddaughter, Helena, which is interesting. Now they've revealed a whole bunch of this stuff. Empire Online have revealed a whole bunch of images. The image of Mads Mikkelsen looks great, actually, and I'm really keen to see Mads Mikkelsen's character. It's nice. I think it's nice that they're getting back to basics with the Nazis and stuff. I think it's what Indiana Jones excelled at, right? Fighting Nazis. I liked it a lot.
So, and this takes place in the 60s, right?
Yeah, the moon landing, Apollo, I think. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of other images.
I'm just trying to think where are the Nazis coming from?
So they're coming from the fact that Nazis helped develop the space program. So
the scientists, and, the U.S.
Yeah.
over. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So they helped do that. So that's where it comes into it, basically. There's elements of Boyd Holbrook's character. He's a villain. He's apparently a lapdog for Mads Mikkelsen's character. So Mads Mikkelsen is playing Voller. So let's see if we can see this here. Whatever.
Yeah, and Phoebe is what's his face's daughter or whatever.
Yeah, goddaughter. Doesn't this look good though?
Well, no, but he's also the daughter of what's his face who died off screen in between Indies 3 and 4. British guy, I can't think of his name. Marcus.
Oh, the doctor,
his friend. It was a Marcus something from the
yeah. What is his name?
They don't say that here. Where have you heard that?
I heard that somewhere, that it's actually Marcus's daughter.
Oh, okay. Well, so
hey, before you start,
but like since they're not technically related, he's like, she's like my goddaughter or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Before you get into it, Nate, I gotta go.
Oh,
Marcus Brody,
sorry,
that's
dude.
it. Yes, thank you, Marcus Brody. Thank you, Dan Blackroyd.
You take care of yourself, Paulie, my dude.
All right,
Take care.
Later, Paulie.
Everyone check out the
I won't be here Thursday.
Peace.
Oh, yeah. Are you doing a stream Thursday, Nate, with it being Thanksgiving here? Because I think most of us will be with family. I don't know what you got going on, Tom.
I'm supposed to do something that day, but since I'm sick, we'll see if I'm still sick by then.
Right.
I might be back by then anyhow. So
see you, Paulie.
I'll be live tomorrow. Come on by, subscribe, and support everyone here on this panel, guys. Thank you, everyone. Take care, Nate.
Take care, buddy.
Peace.
Later.
I mean, so just for everyone in the chat now, obviously we don't do Thanksgiving in the UK. If I don't have any panel guests on Thursday, it'll just be me live streaming, just doing a very similar format to what I used to do. Just
Andre might be here.
I think he probably will. I don't see why
and
not.
I probably will be if I'm not just a little late. But
yeah. So anyway, look, this is what Phoebe Waller-Bridge says about a character. She's a mystery and a wonder. Kathleen Kennedy was in London and asked to have dinner with me, and casually mentioned this. I immediately ordered 10 bottles of wine. All right. Then it was the fastest I've ever read a script. I came out of a sort of so she drank 10 bottles of wine and read a script.
So she's a lush?
Yeah. Not really what you want to say. I got absolutely fucked off my tits and read this script. And then I was like, yeah, it's amazing.
Here, will you play another self-insert of me, please?
That's so dumb. I just couldn't believe how much fun I had because you're absolutely wankered. And how moved I was by it. And then I had a zoom and screamed yes at them all.
I think that's kind of telling that she had to drink 10 bottles of wine for the script to be fun. I mean, that's what I'm getting out of this.
I think she just has a drinking problem, Nick. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Probably. Jesus. Well, it's I can't get over that. That's crazy. I mean, the image looks good at the very least. Fine, I guess. Like it all look for goodness sake, it all looks good. This is the thing about Mangold can make a good looking movie, right? And this all looks good. But
I thought Kingdom of the Crystal Skull looked good.
Yeah, true.
I thought
we got Nazis.
Yeah, and he reminds me very much of the guy from Raiders. The guy from Raiders.
Yes, love it. Love it. I don't know. I don't have lots of hope about this. I don't have a lot of hope about this film. I don't think it's going to be. I don't know. I want to have hope, but I still don't have hope. It's just kind of one of those films, isn't it? Really.
At this point, I'm just curious: is it going to be better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or worse? That's really all I want to see it for. Is it going to be worse or better than that? Because I don't plan on this being on par with the first 3 movies at all.
Well, Mangold kind of fucked himself in that respect, because if you look at it from the idea that if he would have just kept his mouth shut and not went after Matt Kadish online or even mentioned Doomcock and shit at this point, like he would have left all that crap alone. Like all his movie had to do was be better than Crystal Skull. Yeah. Now it's got to be just as good as the first 3, or everybody's going to be like, dude, you suck. Yeah. Even if it's better than Crystal Skull, it still doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the thing. Like, you can't cast a negative light over your own. Don't do anything to cast a negative light over your own product before it comes out, because people will go over that with a magnifying glass, ultra critical. And stuff which they might otherwise let slide, they won't now because you've pissed them off, and fairly as well. People act like that. I think it's perfectly fair and reasonable of them. Go on the offensive, get slapped back, I guess.
No, because he kind of had the fans somewhat, I wouldn't say on his side, but I mean, at that point, I don't think too many people were too upset to see Steven Spielberg leave, because we all remember Crystal Skull. Yeah. So we're like, I think we can try something else. And Mangold, coming off of Logan and some other stuff, like, all right, okay, this guy's a veteran. Let's see what he can do. If he just kept his mouth shut, or if the only thing he would have said has been like, look, I understand a lot of people are worried about, me not being Steven or the age of Harrison Ford. I couldn't imagine myself living up to Steven Spielberg, but what I'm going to do is try and give you the best damn Indiana Jones movie I can. And I know Harrison Ford wants to do that too. So hopefully you guys can give us a chance when it comes out on such and such a date. Because at that point, it hadn't been pushed yet. But yeah, because we had come to find out at that time is when they tried to kill Harrison Ford again. And that's why they weren't shooting. Because I'm sitting here scratching my head going, why the fuck is this guy on Twitter when he's supposed to be shooting a movie? Like,
Yeah,
And then the next day we
yeah,
find out, oh yeah, by the way, Harrison Ford got hurt again.
yeah. It was a bit odd. So moving on to another thing, which is, I guess, creators attacking the fan base or just completely disregarding them. Have you heard about Marvel admitting that they don't want to hire fans to write anything?
I'm not surprised. I've heard things like this since years ago.
Yeah.
When it comes to Star Wars, Star Trek, same difference. So I'm not surprised when it comes to Marvel.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting one because if you look at Marvel versus The Witcher as a case study, The Witcher has a big fan base, not Marvel level, but a big fan base. And they did exactly the same thing. And the fan base, because it's smaller, has diminished to the point where it's completely a bomb now.
Yeah.
And you can't bring that back. And it's such a niche product. And also you lost the charismatic star. No one's interested in it. Marvel are doing exactly the same thing, where they're hiring people that aren't fans, that do not like the fans and are disrespecting the source material and are actively, have a disdain for it. And yet Marvel has only been able to, sort of ride on the smoke of this for so long because it's a bigger, wider recognized product. But it is on the decline. And we've seen that now. We've seen it in the box office totals. So it's interesting when you look at the two, you think at a certain point they're going to realize, but no. And I just don't get it. Like, why would you not do that? So this is Nate Moore, the guy who, he's been on he's been on some good stuff, but producing stuff. But and he also did the most recent Wakanda Forever. But Matthew Boloney, who's actually been doing some really good work, so kudos to him, said, about his general experience working for Disney subsidiary, for Marvel. Moore was eventually asked if there was some kind of a Marvel boot camp or something that you do with these filmmakers to ingratiate them into this world and knowing all the things that they need to know. And that's actually a really good question from Bologna. It's a great question because he's basically saying, look, is there anything you do to get these people sort of, just in the world a little bit? No, was the response. Just straight up, no, not really.
Well, and I can see this becoming a problem. They say the reasoning here, go ahead, and there's more to it than that, I'm sure.
Yeah, so he says, one thing I think is interesting, and specifically for writers, I would say, is that a lot of times we're pitched writers who love Marvel. And to me, that's always a red flag. I don't want you to already have a pre-existing idea of what it is because you grew up with the comics and that's what you want to recreate. I want someone who's going to be hard on the material, who can go, what is this? I think there's a movie here, but maybe we should look at it this way. What?
And that, my friends, is how you get shit like the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
Is it just bizarre?
Yeah, I know that was a deep cut, but
I mean, I'm speechless. I don't
No,
get
it makes absolute complete sense to me because these guys are fucking idiots. Like, I've talked to people about this before and they've said the same shit. Again, not necessarily about Marvel, but about these other properties. And one is, yeah, if you like classic stuff, you're already anti-woke. You're seen as anti-woke. Secondly, they don't like to have to deal with somebody who knows more about the shit than them. They hate that.
True.
That makes them look bad, and then it makes them feel like an idiot. And especially when it comes to things like Star Trek, that was where like they would never hire writers who were fans of the classic shows because they hated to have somebody in the writer's room pop up and go, oh, they already did that on Deep Space Nine, or something to that effect, because then they'd have to deal with that bullshit. The other side of it too is, like these guys are saying here is, oh, you have a preconceived notion of, well, you should have a preconceived notion of what something is.
Absolutely.
If it's what it is, like,
yeah, I
got this right here sings the problem with all these things.
Yeah, I got a perfect example of this. If you just look at what Amazon did with the woke Rings of Power, Tom Shippey, who knows the lore and everything about that, they canned that dude. Probably because the whole time he was giving them so much backlash of this is not right. this is not how it needs to be done. And he was probably getting them
People
so
won't
much
like
shit
this.
about it. They're like, dude, get out of here. You know, we're done.
What you
dealing
just said, Nate, is the thing they don't want to hear too. That's the other thing. The fans won't like this. The moment you say that in the room, they get pissy.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, the fans don't know what the fuck they want.
Yeah, and on a smaller scale, just look at the video that we watched on last Thursday's stream with RGT85 in the interview with for at G4. You know, and the questions being asked to that chick. You know,
why should we cancel Batman?
Yeah, and so it just they keep having these activists that they hire and these people that don't know the source material or don't like it or don't think it's for modern society in today's times and want to change it to fit their own worldview, and then they completely destroy it, and people get pissed off, and then their shit doesn't do good, and then then they lose money, and you know. It is.
Well, the funny thing is that they're like, oh, well, you know, we need to. Why don't we look at it this way, right? And what does that boil down to? What have we actually got in terms of them doing this? You know, not fans of comics, and well, why don't we just have a look at it from this slant? All we've had is them just swap everyone out for women. It's not exactly a great, deep, broad.
Not only that, usually
philosophical look at the material, is it?
Yeah.
Like,
and the thing is, having somebody give a different perspective and view on something is not a bad thing. I mean, if you go back to the X-Men movies, I mean, they did more modern outfits. They didn't have Wolverine in the yellow, you know, with the big black, you know.
The difference there was Bryan Singer wasn't a comic book fan, or at least not a X-Men fan, but what he did do is he read some, or actually I heard he watched the series, and for pretty good authority. And after he watched it, he's like, oh, I get this. I can do something with this, you know, and it's kind of like, that's the difference is you get somebody like a Bryan Singer or a Tim Burton when it came to Batman. He didn't know any Batman shit. The only Batman he knew was Adam West. Somebody handed him Dark Knight Returns and handed him The Killing Joke. And he's like, okay, I can do this. And that's why that movie feels like those. And the same thing, the other one to go to is Nicholas Meyer when it came to Star Trek. But again, you have somebody who had a pedigree behind them who had a history of knowing literature. And so he took one look at Star Trek, watched a few episodes and goes, oh, this is Horatio Hornblower in space. I can do this. That's a big difference from having somebody like that compared to, you know, Ava DuVernay or some of these other fuckers they got working on this shit sometime.
Yeah.
But the article continues and he says, look, I think that's important to be able to go, look, the source material is great and I love it. And comics work great in the medium they were built in. But that's not a direct one-to-one translation to the best version of the movie. I agree. But then this follow-up statement's such nonsense. And sometimes it takes someone who's out of the culture to go, hey, I know you think it should be this, but maybe it should be this. No, because the people they hire that are out of the culture are individuals that have just come out of academia. They've just left university. They're all left-wing because academia is unfortunately homogenous in its approach now. It doesn't nurture or foster debate and actual reasoned discussion. It's literally, you must sing from this socio-political hymn sheet, otherwise you're excommunicated. So they all sing from that one singular homogenous approach. They might be out of the culture, but they're in one culture. They're all the bloody same. That's why we're getting such garbage nowadays, because they get new writers, brand new writers. None of them are good. They've not been good for years now. You know, we'll get someone out of the culture. No, you should get someone in the culture. At the very least, get someone in the culture that can bounce off of the other person. And then you can come to an understanding between the two of you on what is a good approach. You know, that is a better approach to filmmaking than just one narrative, which is,
and it's a complete disconnect from the fan base that they're making the content for. You know, why are you going to change this when the fans know it to be this way? And then you make some sort of drastic change and everybody's like, what the fuck is this? Why would you do this? You know,
that is what people have been saying, isn't it? Like a lot of the stuff which is now leading to their decline, people are just like, what are you actually doing? So yeah, I don't know. It's just absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I don't know. Well, we'll see what happens, but it's very clear that they've been on this path for a little while now, and I can't see them getting off of it because, again, like a tick, it's embedded itself in the skin of Disney, but there's a lot of them. So, unfortunate.
Well,
really.
like I'm wondering what the magic money number is for them to lose money. How much money do they got to lose before they're like, okay, we got to do something about this?
Yeah.
Well, the problems you have is, and this is where I think Bob Iger's situation, and I brought it up before, is you got ESG money and other situations coming in with these companies I'm not even going to name that are big parts of these corporations that have political interests involved. So there's money in those areas that'll make up for things. And that's where I think the swing was coming in, because until the last couple of weeks here, it was getting to a point where they were letting their guard down. So they were allowing some of the other shit to come through. They're like, well, yeah, we got to start making some money again because money isn't coming from other places. Well, and all of a sudden you had Elon, FTX, Trump all happen in a matter of a couple of weeks here. Boom. That changed things practically overnight. And I can see that that's why Disney panicked and made this move, because it's a safety measure to them. Because Bob Iger's safe. Yeah. He's a safe bet. And that's why they did this. It makes sense to me. I think it's stupid. It's going to be the wrong move, but you know what? It's going to be hilarious watching David Zaslav run over them in the next couple of years, because I think Warner is going to just run away with Hollywood in the next couple of years, because they're going to know they're just going to be trying to do what people want to see. And that's where David Zaslav comes from, is the world of cable. And you can, him and Haw all day, but you can't sell something that eyeballs aren't on. And he knows that. So,
I hope so, because I'll support them if they're going to be making good content over there at Warner.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to make everything anti-woke or anything like that, but he's just going to make stuff that people want to see.
Yeah. So this is the thing. Like look, I don't give a shit about DC and I don't give a shit about Marvel. I literally couldn't care less about either of them. I just want good products. So no matter who is making the good product, they will have my money. Like I don't have any specific ties to Star Wars, for instance, but I really like Andor. To me, it's a great product. So they've got my eyes glued to it every single week, without failure. I don't have any of that sort of company bias because, I'm a DC fanboy. I don't give a shit about DC. I'm a Marvel fan. I don't give a shit about Marvel. Star Wars. I don't give a shit about Star Wars either. Like I'm not, I grew up on 2000 AD and those kind of comics and things like that. So basically, all David Zaslav and DC have got to do is go, all right, let's just give people what they want for a change. Let's just do that. Then they'll have my money day one. And that, that would translate to other things, like all this random paraphernalia shit that, is like behind me on the walls and stuff. Because it's nice to be surrounded by the stuff that you like. We are the consumers. So if they start actually catering to the consumers, then they're going to make more money, aren't they? So
you got Transformers back there, Nate, or those Gundams?
No, these are Gundams.
Okay, okay, all right. I was like, they're either Transformers or Gundams, but I can't tell.
Yeah, no, they're Gundams. I've got another one I need to build, and I've got some other stuff on the side down here that you can't see. I've got Marcus Phoenix's son from Gears of War on a motorbike and stuff. I've got loads of random.
Well, those are some nice Gundams.
Is that the Ninja Turtle van down there?
Down where? There.
The lower right. Lower right. No, that's something else. It almost looked like the front end of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle van from the 90s.
I don't know.
It's the where the hat is. I can make out what it is now. What is that? A Lakers hat or?
Oh, that's a Datsun hat.
Oh, okay, Datsun hat.
Like all my random Datsun stuff.
Yeah.
So. I've got a pickup truck that's being completely rebuilt from scratch, and so like my friend bought me the Datsun hat, so when my pickup truck finally comes back, I can wear my trucker's hat basically and drive around.
I had my first car was a Nissan hardbody pickup truck, which
so the D21.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got
But I had it was 4-wheel drive, and I put a 3-inch lift on it with some 33-inch Super Swamper tires.
Very nice. So I've got the D21's daddy. I've got the Datsun 720 King Cab. Which, if you look at the two of them, they're quite similar, but not. So mine's the older version of that, which was, I've got the Japanese model, so round headlights, but it's been stripped down. Like it's got so much trick stuff. It's got a custom dashboard and everything. Let me show you actually. It's random car talk now. So I've got it's got it's so cool. This is no one else has seen this yet. This is all brand new. No one else has seen this. I need to make a video, but completely tricked out. Look at that custom dashboard. It's got
that looks very spaceshipy.
So it's supposed to look like so with the three units there in the middle, very Datsun 240Z. You know, it's sort of 240Z inspired, I guess, to a degree. But it's super cool. It's a badass truck. But anyway, I digress. We digress. We got one more super chat to get to, and then so from Gary for £5 says, "Man, I love Harrison Ford. Now he's older. His look, personally, and mannerisms are very similar to my grandfather when he was alive." Harrison Ford's just a badass. He just doesn't give a fuck. He's super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, one of the all-time greats for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, everyone, ladies and gents, for my car. I actually have a car channel, by the way, if anyone didn't know. I actually have a whole channel to do with cars. I don't talk about it very much. It's called Car Nonsense. There's a link in the description box. Go check it out. I do. Yeah, I'm big on cars. Do you
talk about the truck rebuild restoration?
Yeah. It's on there. There's some videos on there, in person and just from photos. I've not visited it for a while because it's like an hour drive away, and progress was getting quite slow. But in a week's time, I've got to go up there and do its final sign off before it goes to paint, because it's getting a complete respray. So there'll be a big video on that. But yeah, check it out if anyone is interested. It's a whole other channel.
What's the name of the channel again?
Car Nonsense.
Car Nonsense.
Just because it's nonsense and I'm talking about cars. Oh dear. Right, anyway, I think that about wraps it up, ladies and gents. So we've had absolutely great panel today. We've got Tom from Midnight's Edge After Dark, and obviously Midnight's Edge, but you can find Midnight's Edge After Dark, which is Tom's baby, in the description box. Nick from Echo Base Network, again, you can find that linked in the description box. I've just got to say real quick, obviously we're talking about cars, but all these streams go on a second channel now called Mr. H Reviews Live Archives, and they're clipped. These streams, this is like a 2.5-hour stream. Not everyone can watch that. I get it. So we split up some of the topics as well into separate videos. So please do check it out. Subscribe, turn the bell icons on. Guys, what have you got coming up? Anything going on?
Go ahead.
Nick. All right, I'll go.
So polite.
So me and Coach are actually going to go live tonight for about an hour before the drop of Andor episode 12
finale.
Yep, it is the final episode of season 1. So we'll be on live tonight an hour before that kicks off, and then all of our channel members, we're all going over to our Discord, and we're gonna watch it live with everybody else. For all of our channel members in Discord, and react to it live.
Nice. So everyone check out Echo Base Network down below in the description box for that as well. Tom, what you got? What you got coming up?
I will be live here in about roughly half hour or so on Mead. So yeah, we'll be talking about similar stuff. Yep. Yes, indeed.
Excellent. So anyway, ladies and gents, I know some people will be busy on Thanksgiving. It's not Thanksgiving in the UK on Thursday. We don't do Thanksgiving. So I will still be streaming, hoping that it will be me and Andre and potentially Tom as well, if he can make it. So hopefully that'll be all of us there. But failing that, it'll just be me. So if you want to join, you're around, come join us. We'll be talking again, similar kind of stuff. We'll see what's around. We'll do some more reviews coming up moving forwards when movies drop. But for now, it's more sort of news and topical elements. But yeah, thank you all so much, ladies and gents. Do appreciate you tuning in. Tuesdays and Thursdays, streaming. And check out Mistake Reviews live archives. From me and everyone else, take care.
Bye, guys.